What's up and welcome back to Bardown Talking Hockey What's up and welcome back to Bardown Talking Hockey episode number 137, presented by the Barroom Network. My name is Vinny Parisi, and I have bees on my head, but don't call me a bee head. And this right here, this is Frankie Mueller, and he's got Bruce Lee's on his head, but don't call him a Lee head. Now, please excuse me, we got to get our tree fed. Frank, how you doing?
He was on something the other day. He was on a
Andy,
show the other
Andy
day.
Schmandy Schmilla
hmm
What was he on?
I don't know. I'm trying to remember, but he was on TV the other day or on a live stream or something. And
That's funny. I got so messed up. I wanted to nail that so badly, and I nailed it the second time I did it, but I flubbed the part I do every week. What's up and welcome. The part I do every week is the part I flubbed. And the Andy Milanakis part, I pretty much nailed exactly how I wanted to.
what's up, Travis?
What's good?
Skokes?
Frank, did you watch the first season?
Tom?
Tom, did you ever watch the first season of Andy Milanakis like in full?
I mean, I'm sure I did because I used to go on demand and look for his episodes.
I think it would be really funny if one night in the winter, I'm talking like post holiday, when we're kind of in the muck of things, probably after the Super Bowl. So I'm thinking like late February would probably be the perfect time for this kind of thing, when really the only thing on TV that we care like deeply about is hockey. You know, football's over, spring training hasn't started yet. It's pretty much just like hockey at this point. I think we should have like a drinking party centered around the Andy Milanakis show and just run the entire first season and see who could laugh the hardest, the
I
drunker we get.
remember like really liking it, and I feel like if I rewatch it, I wouldn't like it as much.
Why?
I don't know because I feel like my humor's changed. Like now, just be dumb.
Oh, I was on a rabbit hole a couple days ago.
Now he's like annoying, I feel like.
Oh, I saw the theme song a couple days ago and then I went down a rabbit
The
hole.
theme song's the best part.
It is so fucking funny, Frank. I don't know what you're talking about. The episode where the old lady dresses up as a coupon and Andy Milanakis tries to pay for every meal that he orders delivered using her as a coupon. Like, who wouldn't find
Like,
that
yeah,
funny?
I mean,
Who wouldn't find that funny? Like,
that's funny.
you either, Frank, still think it's funny or you turned into an asshole. Like, that's me. And I know you didn't turn into an asshole.
I don't remember it that well. I remember that. I remember some of the stuff he did.
And there was a segment where like he kept going up to random people on the street and telling them something terrible is happening to him. So he'd be like
That's been a while.
my girlfriend just broke up with me. Have a nice day. And he'd hand him a balloon. He'd go, terminal illness, terminal schmillness. Have a nice day.
I kind of remember that.
It's
Yeah.
so funny. So funny. And then the advertisement on why everyone should use a spoon. You could use spoon to help walk your dog. If you stick two spoons on top of each other, you can only tell a little bit. You could throw a spoon at this puppy calendar. It is so funny.
I
So
mean, I'd be down to watch it again because I
we
remember laughing a lot.
we need
So
to watch it. Frank, I know you would, especially I know like if I was in the same room and you got to peel over at me every time Andy Milanakis did something dumb, I know you wouldn't not laugh. I just know it. I know it. I know it. Frank, we do need to like touch up on one conversation we had to open the show last week, though.
Swiss cheese.
You talked to me about cheese, and we ended up down. It was Swiss cheese that started it, and then we went down a whole cheese rabbit hole.
hmm
I just feel bad that I didn't, without even thinking about it, I left off a top 20 cheese of mine and
Oh,
two top 10 cheeses of mine.
okay. What's your top 20?
Brie. I do like Brie. I understand where you're coming from via our text message conversation. For those who don't know, Frankie thinks like it's mid, it's fine, it's just kind of bland. It is. That's kind of the point of it. Like it goes well on a charcuterie board if you're eating some grapes, or if you have, salami, or one of those types of lunch meats, or nuts, or
You
chocolate.
just don't eat brie cheese by itself. You
No,
eat it
no,
paired with something.
no. Brie cheese is like a fourth line left winger that needs a centerman to drive offense for
Yeah,
it. Like or it's like the second guy on the third pair of defense. He's
correct.
no good with no good partner, but he's an NHL defenseman if he has a really good partner. That is brie. Now, as Katie points out in the chat, baked brie with pomegranate seeds on top, Frank. There's nothing. Warm brie is delicious. You cut it open and it oozes, and it's like, oh, it's almost like the heat brings out a flavor. And then these pomegranate seeds on top with maybe some crackers, unreal. So I had to get brie out of the way because I had it on a burger. Loved it. Loved it. I'm starting to think like, why don't I just make a burger and try every single cheese on top of it and realize that they're all delicious on it? Because I would have never thought to put brie. I would have never thought to put cream cheese, which is one of the top 10s that we didn't even mention once last week.
Oh yeah, I
How do
love
we not mention cream cheese?
cream
I
cheese.
love cream cheese, Frank. I could smear it all over my face and just lick it off.
I love cream cheese too. How did we forget about it?
We didn't mention cream cheese once. I went back and watched the whole thing. And another cheese we left off. I'm not sure how you're gonna feel about it. Yeah, Tom says so. Brie would be the Zaitsev of cheese. I actually think Zaitsev's D partner could be Drew Doughty in his prime, and he would still stink. Zaitsev is the Gorgonzola of cheeses. Zaitsev is Gorgonzola. Freaking rookie Wyatt Kaiser is like brie cheese. You know, I think Wyatt Kaiser can develop into being cheddar or, you know, one of the top ones. Saganaki is a
I love Saganaki.
Saganaki's unreal.
And we
So,
forgot about that. That's in my top 10, I
you
think.
gave me kind of a funny look when I put brie like top 20. Like, oh, of course it's top 20. Well, how many cheeses are there? Frank, there are so many cheeses we didn't
Brie
name that
probably
are
wouldn't even
awesome.
be in my top 20.
Oh, I would be in my top 20, but Saganaki would be ahead of it. Now, Frank,
Oh my god.
how do you feel about goat cheese?
No, I'm not the biggest fan of goat cheese.
See, I thought I wasn't, and then Katie slapped a cylinder of it on a charcuterie board one time. And if you put goat cheese on a cracker, it has cream cheese properties. So I honestly think you need to give goat cheese another try if you like cream cheese as much as you say you do. Next time we're all together, we're gonna lead the way and have a charcuterie board with all different kinds of cheese.
We need to have a cheese day.
Yeah. And then my dad, who happened to be watching the show, I don't know if he's watching right now, but he was watching. We were talking about cheese. He brought up the difference between like deli provolone and imported provolone, and I think both deserve. There's a time and a place for both. You go to Subway, give me that fake deli made in a lab provolone cheese. I love it. It's delicious. You're shredding some for your pasta. Give me that imported shit, and you can put it on top of the grinder. And Foster points out there's over 1,800 types of cheese. That is awesome. That is awesome.
Did you try whatever that nasty ass cheese Tom was saying last week? That like Lindbergh cheese?
No, I haven't tried it yet, but I would. I would.
Tom says goat and cheese do not belong in the same
See,
sentence.
don't think of the animal goat. Think of greatest of all time type of goat, because I think goat cheese is in that conversation for me. I could probably, it might make my Mount Rushmore, and that's a new development. Wouldn't have said that a year ago, but like when I think of Tom Brady, goat cheese is not far behind. I mean it.
That's crazy.
It's delicious, Frank. You're a cream cheese guy. You got to give goat cheese a chance.
I'll give it another try.
I'm telling you, and go into it with your adult brain open. If you don't like it after, that's fine. It's not for everyone, because like it has that like cream cheese texture, and there are people that despise cream cheese. So I don't know. I like getting all worked up over cream cheese though, and
I can't believe you forgot about it.
I thought of I was discussing cheese with my dad, and we were analyzing it, and I thought of a really good comparable for Swiss cheese. You remember Ben Zobrist? Ben Zobrist was a back-to-back World Series champion. He won it in 2015 with the Royals and 2016 with the Cubs. And he never really had like one set position. You need Ben Zobrist to play some right field. He'll play some right field. I think for the Cubs, he was primarily the backup. No, he probably was considered the starting second baseman, and Addison Russell and Javier Baez shared assignments at second base during the World Series year. And Ben Zobrist probably played some third. Bryant played third too. Ben Zobrist was actually all over the place. Now that he was a true utility guy, that is Swiss cheese. Just a true utility guy. He's not your best player. He's probably not even starting every game. But when you get to the big moments, the World Series, French onion soup, a ham sandwich, you get to the big moments. I think you need to really start considering Swiss cheese.
Um, I've actually had Swiss cheese since our last conversation.
Wow. That quick of a turnaround for the Swiss cheese, eh?
I love Swiss cheese. It could be my number one.
Wow. Have you ever had
And I've had it today.
Wow, good work. Good work on being ready for this assignment. Your dedication to the podcast is truly remarkable. I respect it.
So I've had Swiss multiple occasions since
That's
the last time we
that's
talked.
outstanding dedication to Bardown Talking Hockey.
Yeah.
Presented by the Barroom Network. Really quick, see Brick and Munster. We didn't even touch on Munster. I like Brick too, but we didn't touch on Munster. There are just so many cheeses. Mike Henley says, "Cut the cheese and get to the sports." Frank, you cut the cheese quite often, from what I know about you.
Me. Well, let's talk about Tom.
Tom
Tom's a pull my finger.
Tom cuts the cheese quite often. Foster gave Tom a thumbs up. Tom's gonna pull that finger. All right, Frank. We have an outstanding cheese conversation. We will be discussing cheese all hockey season long. Maybe on our next show, we'll do a definitive top 20, and we'll separate like the Mount Rushmore and the top 10 and the top 20. We will. I think that's necessary.
And our next show is our last show before Thanksgiving.
Which is what better way to go into the Thanksgiving holiday? And we're going to discuss our updated Thanksgiving meals too, because we've discussed Thanksgiving because the show's always been on a Wednesday. This will be our fourth time, I think, discussing the Thanksgiving plate. And we might dedicate a whole period to Thanksgiving next week, and we'll talk about the Thanksgiving football games, our favorite foods,
Good,
all
because
that
I have
kind
a
of stuff.
Thanksgiving game for you, I think.
Yes, perfect. I love it. Next week, if you're interested in this show, if you love hockey, this is the place to be. If you love Thanksgiving, this is the place to be. If you love football, this is the place to be. If you love hockey and football on Thanksgiving, this is the place to be, because that's what we do here. One of the drunkest I've ever been in my entire life was the last time New Jersey played on Thanksgiving. I believe it was a 3-1 win or a 4-2 win over the Montreal Canadiens in Montreal. The Devils won. Loved that. But they don't play on Thanksgiving. Thank goodness, kind of, because that was kind of a pain in terms of, covering it. But, I'm excited to do all this cheese. Tom says that we're going to try Limburger cheese next time we're together, and it can't be worse than his neighbor's garbage. I'm agreeing with that.
He had a very funny story. He told me about it. I
Yeah.
just busted out laughing. You have to hear it. I don't want to even say it, so you'll hear it from his mouth.
Okay. I understand. I thought you were going to say it right here, and I was excited. But if you promise that it's better from his mouth, some jokes are, or some stories are just better from the source.
I mean, it's not a big story, but it was like, I don't know if it was like somebody he knew who he was interested in back in the day, or if it was a friend who had a girlfriend whose like go-to was just always a Limburger cheese sandwich.
Okay.
And it made me laugh, and it was hilarious. I don't remember if that was somebody he knew or.
That is funny. That is very funny. We're going to have to hear it from him and get his take on it, but I'm excited to watch him eat Limburger cheese. Foster says ham, Munster, and fresh spinach on rye with mayo and a little mustard toasted. That actually sounds, holy shnikes. Ham, Munster, fresh spinach, mayo, a little mustard toasted.
I love
That
Munster
sounds
a lot.
delightful. Yeah,
That's
Munster is
another
good.
cheese I forgot.
Would you put Swiss and Munster on this sandwich Foster suggesting? Like, do you consider crossing the sauces every now and again?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I'm with you. I love mixing cheeses. Cheese was put on this earth to be mixed.
Of course.
I mean, what is nacho cheese? Nacho cheese probably is a mix of cheddar and American, right? Like I would assume there's some kind of like, way of making that
I don't know like how they decide what goes where. And
absolutely. Well, we're gonna cut the cheese and we're gonna get to talking about sports ball in period number 1. Welcome to period number 1, where Frankie and I are done discussing cheese for 15 minutes, but we're going to get back to cheese at some point or another. Frank, speaking of cheese, we're going to talk about some things going on with our friends north of the border in this period number 1. And we're going to talk about our friends. This is going to be the second straight show that we led off with Alberta. And we're talking about the Edmonton Oilers. Frank, the Edmonton Oilers, they canned Jay Woodcroft over the weekend after a big win against there was the Seattle Kraken that they beat, and McDusty was flying. And Zach Hyman had a natural hat trick in the first period. And it looked like the Oilers that were all last season. And then they canned Jay Woodcroft the next day after they win. And you think that this game against the Kraken would kind of buy Jay Woodcroft some time, because I certainly don't think he's a bad coach. If the Devils were to can Lindy Ruff for whatever reason, I'd be cool with them hiring Jay Woodcroft the next day. He's got like a 700 winning percentage with the Oilers. I really think he's a good coach, but they felt the change was needed. Your thoughts?
Well, let's not forget they lost to the Sharks as well before that. So
yeah, but did the Flyers fire Torts?
That just means that his firing was set in stone no matter what. Like, they knew it was coming right after that game. He probably knew, like, all right, I'm done. Like, okay, we're gonna stick around for this game, win or lose, you're still fired.
They were on the road,
and they were on the road. McDavid said that the firing caught him by surprise. I mean, all right. You don't even say it.
Yeah, you don't have to lie, Connor.
don't even comment on the situation or be like, wow, I didn't think there's just something you don't have to say. Just don't say it caught you by surprise. I mean, you could like playing for him, you could like him as a person, you could like him as a coach, but anyone who knows hockey knew it was coming, including McDavid. He was just doing the nice thing to do. But don't blatantly lie, because I don't believe that he didn't know. Replacement coach, though, is Chris Knobloch. Knobloch was the coach of the Erie Otters when McDavid was down in junior. So this is a great opportunity for McDavid to unlock some of the potential that has been missing all season. And Knobloch is a man who knows how to coach McDavid. So McDavid's comfortable playing under this coach. And through his first game, the Oilers are 1-0. And in that one game, McDavid had a goal and assist. Draisaitl had a goal and 3 assists. Both players had combined for 6 points. And like I said last week, change needed to happen. Sometimes it's the slightest change, such as a coaching change. And sometimes that can make the biggest of differences. Still got to see what, happens over a long stretch of period. But go Knobloch, dude. Ride it out.
You brought up a good point. McDavid said it caught him by surprise. He didn't know it was coming. And I agree with you. There's no way Connor's not lying. But you didn't even bring up the biggest reason why I think he's lying. Because they hired his damn junior coach. they were like, what coach could we hire that'll make Connor so happy? Let's ask him. Or let's hire his junior coach, where only one player has been better than Bedard in junior in the last 20 years. It's Connor McDavid. And freaking this guy, don't lie to me, Connor. You're one of my favorite players in the league, but I'll hate you so fast if I have to. I will. In short order, will I despise you if you lie.
Dude said it caught him so off guard.
Like, it just caught you so off guard. You knew 2 weeks ago that if you lost to the Sharks, you were gonna freaking see your coach get canned.
He can't be that dumb.
No, come on, Connor. If he didn't know, and he's telling the truth, Ken Holland ought to be fired, the GM of the Edmonton Oilers. I mean, what are we doing if you're not telling Connor? I mean, I know Connor's not the GM, but like, Buddy's only got 2 years left on his contract. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent soon. Like, that conversation is going to start coming up. Connor's going to get the H out of there if they don't, continue being a winning team. I'm not going to say the Oilers haven't given Connor a chance to win the Stanley Cup. They've lost to the last 2 Stanley Cup champions in the playoffs, Colorado and Vegas, and that's who took them out both times. But, I mean, if you're Edmonton, you had 12 forwards last year, have 10 or more goals. You bring in a defenseman like Ekholm, who's been outstanding. Bouchard has been unreal. You kind of haven't put your best foot forward with goaltending, but you tried. You signed Jack Campbell, who was amazing with the Kings before, and the Leafs before he got to the Edmonton Oilers. We loved Jack Campbell. We thought he was great back in the times when he was with the Leafs. And Stuart Skinner was second in rookie voting last year, the Calder Trophy. I mean, the Edmonton, they have tried, and some things have worked and some things have failed. Zach Hyman, bringing him in was a revelation. He's one of the best power forward role players in the NHL. I mean, he had north of 90 points last season. If you can even call a guy with 90 points a role player, but I guess if there were 3 guys on the team with 100 points, you could probably start considering Hyman a role player. But I mean, the point I'm trying to make is like, Connor, you guys need to be better too. McDavid and Draisaitl are not void of any blame for what has happened to the Oilers so far this season. They're just not. They haven't dominated games. They get their points. Draisaitl's got 6 goals, I think, which is a little low for him at this point. But McDavid, he went 8 games without a goal. He finally scored in their last game. And then after he makes the sarcastic remark, yeah, at least I know I remember how to score. Like, yeah, okay, Connor, we know you know how to score. Like, dude, what are you talking about? But I mean, it's an interesting situation up there in Edmonton, and I'm excited to see how it goes going forward. Last week I said they're toast. Now that they fired their coach and have won 2 in a row, I might be Philadelphia. But I'm not totally flipped yet. I still think the Oilers stink. Go prove me wrong, Edmonton. Last year, remember, they were my second most watched team. My second most watched team behind New Jersey. They're probably still in the top 10 if I'm recalling what I've thrown on my TV and computer over the last month or so. But Tooch's team that he's putting on in the chat, which, hello, Tooch, by the way. Nice to see you. Thank you for coming in. My podcast father, my pod father. I've been watching the Canucks, man. And he's got them tonight, 60-minute puck line at plus 100 to win in regulation over the New York Islanders. I love that bet. I love it. I love it. It's a great pick. I'd be stunned if the Canucks don't beat the Isle. I believe it's in Vancouver, too. So, but it's a 60-minute pick puck line, so that means
if it goes overtime, you lose.
Yeah, because it's got to be 1.5. But I'm all in on Vancouver. I think they make playoffs. I picked them in preseason to be like a bubble team and make the playoffs. They were in the playoffs for me. They are exceeding my expectations. Now I can see them having home ice against either one of them or the Kings will have home ice and they'll play each other and it'll be an awesome series. I can't tell you who I think would win right now. You would have to talk to me in March and April. But as of right now, those 2 teams rule, and hell yeah to the Canucks.
It's money line, not puck line. Money line, he said, plus 100.
Oh, okay. There you go. Well, I mean, either way, I love Vancouver. And my guy Quinn Hughes, Jack Hughes and Luke Hughes' older brother, are the 2 superstars on the New Jersey Devils. Their older brother, Quinn, just as good. Really, probably. It probably goes Jack, Quinn, Luke, but like it could go in any order 3 years from now, right? Like, we never know what Luke is going to do, what Quinn, like, I still think if Jack comes back from injury, we could be talking about the Calder, at least nominations, the Calder, the Hart, and the Norris. So, it's going to be fun, but, it should be really, really cool. Thomas Gage says he's going to Dallas. I'm assuming he's talking about McDusty.
No, I think he's talking about Patrick Kane.
Oh.
Because that's the title of this episode.
Got it. Yeah, that's one of the teams he hasn't spoken to yet, but they are in the rumor. I thought he meant McDavid. I was like, if McDavid went to Dallas, man, that would really throw a wrench in things. I mean, they probably could make, but like, would McDavid want to go to Texas?
There's just too much. They'd have to free up some cap space, and
I also don't think I think they'd rather splurge on like.
They don't need him.
I'm thinking of like if a big defenseman becomes available over the years. Like, I know Rasmus Dahlin and Owen Power got locked up, but like, who's next in line after that? Quinn Hughes is pretty locked into Vancouver. Like, I see Dallas going for like, a top defenseman at some point in the future. Like, the Colorado just extended Devin Taves too. I was just gonna say him. But like, one of those types of guys is what I see Dallas doing in the future. But hey, you never know what happens. So Frank, any last minute thoughts on Edmonton before we move on from them?
Well, what I forgot to mention too about how McDavid didn't know. You don't have to be told about Woodcroft being fired. Were we told? Well, no, you just, as a hockey fan, and especially as the greatest hockey player in the world, you should know based on how well your team's performing. Like, it shouldn't come as a surprise. That's all I have left to say about it. You just don't sit there in the locker room like you have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. I have one issue though, and I think this is something that it'll be said even more when we get to the third period when we start talking about the National Football League. But coaches, GMs, coordinators, whatever the case may be, they do oftentimes take the brunt for players sucking ass.
It's part of the sport.
When Luke Getsy was in Green Bay as their offensive coordinator, everyone loved this man. Luke Getsy, offensive genius. You know why he was an offensive genius? Because that bad man, Aaron Rodgers, was their quarterback, and he won 2 back-to-back MVPs and made Luke Getsy look like a genius. Now he comes to the Bears, and he's got Justin Fields and Tyson Bagent, and all of a sudden all Bears fans think he's an idiot, moron, want him fired. Okay, fine. You look at the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen decides to be the NFL's leader in interceptions again, and their offensive coordinator gets fired. But everyone loved this guy when Josh Allen looked like freaking Michael Vick out there. Everyone loved him. He was the best offensive coordinator in the NFL. This Bills offense is so good. When your players stink, the coaches take the tumble a lot of the time.
Part of the job.
I do think there are instances where you can look at coaching and be like, this guy stinks. When I think of, I don't think Jay Woodcroft is necessarily the reason that Edmonton was stinking and they fired him because of results. And sometimes I do think firing guys for results is fair. But, if McDavid and Draisaitl started the season well and they're 8-3-2 instead of 3-8-2, Jay Woodcroft is still very much their coach.
Yep.
And so stuff like that happens. He's out of Edmonton. We move on for the second week in a row. We don't just start with one team in Alberta. We move to the next. The Flames took a tough loss to the Toronto Maple Leafs on Friday night. In that game, Nikita Zadorov laid a huge hit, and he scored a big goal. And then after the game, Kevin Weeks reports that Nikita Zadorov has requested a trade out of Calgary. And then Pierre LeBrun followed it up. Pierre LeBrun of TSN and The Athletic follows it up with, this is very true news, Zadorov has requested a trade, and they expect something will get done in the short term. What do you expect to happen with Nikita Zadorov and the Calgary Flames?
Well, the Flames still sit in 6th in the Pacific Division. There's been no change from last week when we talked about him. Zadorov doesn't want to be part of this team anymore. He wants to be traded. You look at his stats from this year, he's got a goal and 4 assists in 13 games. He's a bottom 3 defensive pair player on this team. Maybe he could play on the second defensive pair unit on a different team. The question begins to circulate, where can he be traded and how and where will he be fit into this new team? And there's a few teams that stick out right away, right? You think about the New Jersey Devils, who apparently I heard were interested in him. And I don't know who they would give up for him because the Flames are going to be looking for picks or a decent prospect. But the Devils could upgrade Brendan Smith on their third D pair and have him play with Kevin Ball. I mean, that definitely would be a huge upgrade for them. They would just have to make sure their cap is in order and they can make it work. And, getting to play with getting to play with Jack Hughes and this terrific young core on the New Jersey Devils, I think that would help out the team tremendously, and it would definitely strengthen their deep pair a little bit. The other possibility in place you could send them is the Vancouver Canucks. If Vancouver is going to be a real contender this year and make a postseason run, they're going to want to add some defensive depth on their teams. It is not perfect at the moment. There are a decent amount of holes on defense in Vancouver, but Demko's playing so great right now, it makes it where you don't see too many of those holes. It's kind of covered up by his terrific play. But having Quinn Hughes, Filip Hronek, Nikita Zadorov on defense sounds like a load of fun. So the Vancouver Canucks are another team that, I could see them possibly acquiring him. And then also I've heard rumblings about the Toronto Maple Leafs, and there are rumors about, like, I'm pretty sure he said he wanted to go there, or he wouldn't mind going to Toronto, and that would add a huge physical presence to their defense, which they don't really have a guy like Zadorov on their team. They had a lot of undersized defensemen. Nobody as big as Zadorov. I think the Zadorov is like 6'6". He would also be the Leafs' second youngest defenseman on the team, so they could add a little defensive depth and a little youth to their team because their defense kind of weak right now. So, I mean, there are a lot of options here, a lot of different teams he could go to. It's just who's willing to make the move? What are you willing to give up for him? And where is he best going to fit in? Because obviously he wants to go to a contending team or a team that's ready to win now. He wants out of Calgary as quick as possible.
He really does want out of Calgary. I like the teams that you suggested. Did you mention Colorado?
No.
I think Colorado is like a sneaky team to like possibly think about. Just because he's been there before. They seemingly could probably make this trade happen. You know, it's where he started his career. It would make sense. He'd be comfortable. He knows how to play, you know, at even strength with the Nate Dowg and with Cale Makar and, you know, Mikko Rantanen, you know, the Devin Taves, Bowen Byram, the list of players goes on. The Avalanche have like 4 Hall of Famers on their team. They could really just use like a boost on the back end, and I think they would really have a chance to make a deep postseason run. I actually love what Colorado's doing so far this season. They're dangerous. But yeah, I think he gets moved soon. He's probably gone by Christmas, I would assume.
Probably before that.
Right? Like when the rosters freeze on the 23rd or whatever it is, I think he'll probably be gone by that point. So we'll see what happens. I like Nikita Zadorov. He's really turned into a pretty good player. When he was with the Hawks, I was iffy on him because they were a bad team and he was, you know, kind of thrust into some minutes that maybe he necessarily isn't suited for. Right? Like if Nikita Zadorov is your number 3 or your number 4 instead of your number 2, then I think, you know, he could really provide some offense and be a big body, you know, control pace of play a little bit. If he goes to a really good team, like you said, if he went to the Devils, who are struggling to keep the puck out of their own net right now, and, you know, they're missing Heischer and Hughes, which is, you know, really putting a damper on things. It's, you know, I think if you took the 2 best players off of any team, they would go 1-3 in a 4-game stretch. I really, really do think that. But like, they need help in that area. I think they'd be a great fit. And Zadorov, he would continue doing what he's doing in Calgary on a team like that. Now, if a team like the Sharks or something acquired him, I think he'd start to really look, you know, out of place. But no, that's definitely not going to happen anyway. And the team that could really use him the most is Toronto. And Toronto decides to meet with Patrick Kane. And we're going to talk about that right now. It makes no sense to me why the Leafs. I understand why Patrick Kane would want to play with Toronto.
I have a reasoning behind it. I'll explain.
For sure. I understand why Kaner would want to play in Toronto. He could help. You could sign a 1-year deal with the Leafs and finish this season with 70 points in 60 games and get yourself a nice 3-year deal for $30 million and end your career richer, like that much richer than you already were. And you did it because you stood on a top line with Austin Matthews this season and you just made absolute magic. I understand why Kaner would want to go to Toronto. What I don't understand, and maybe you have a theory that'll help change my thoughts. You know, I'm open to changing my opinions on things. I don't understand why the Leafs would want Patrick Kane. They have, outside of maybe New Jersey, the Rangers, maybe the Avalanche, maybe even including the Avalanche, Edmonton, maybe. They have one of the best winger cores in the NHL. You have William Nylander, who, God, I want the Hawks to sign him to play with Bedard. That's my new thing. That's going to become my new thing I beat the drum for. Bring Nylander to Chicago, the good Nylander. You wasted our time with stinky Alex Nylander. Bring William Nylander to Chicago to play with Bedard next season. You hand him 10 sheets and you're set. Bedard has a line winger. He has a winger for the first half of his career in stone. That would be an outstanding idea. But then you have Nylander, you have Marner, you have Bertuzzi, you have Domi, you have Matthew Nyes. I mean, the Leafs are loaded with wingers. And down the middle, they're stacked with Matthews and Tavares. Why would they want Patrick Kane, the Maple Leafs, Frank?
Well, here, Patrick Kane, you know, he's been he's going to begin to meet with a bunch of NHL teams this week to discuss what we'll be playing next. Buffalo Sabres are a team in the talks. Florida Panthers are teams he'll be meeting with this week. And Detroit Red Wings also expressed interest in him. But like we said, he met with the Toronto Maple Leafs yesterday. All I think that happened with the Maple Leafs was that he basically was doing this just to like pass some time, had a cup of coffee with them, as you could say, with the team, because right now he's currently practicing in Oakville, Ontario. So this was just an easy meet with Toronto. He barely had to travel and probably just wanted to hear what they had to say. And they probably figured, hey, listen, Patrick Kane, future Hall of Famer, is literally 2 miles down the street. Let's just bring him in and talk with him, and let's just run his ear a little bit, because he is so damn close. He could probably walk to my office and we could talk to him. So that's the only reason why I think they decided to do it, was the whole proximity thing of how close he was. The Toronto Maple Leafs don't need him. He's not going to go to Toronto. They have tons of talent without Kane. Work on your defense first and then talk to me about Patrick Kane later on, because you don't need him. You're not going to get him. And this is just purely for media purposes, building up the media. That there is, in my eyes, a 0% chance Patrick Kane goes to Toronto. This was just the nice thing to do. Hey, Kane, I see you from my window. I'm looking down the street. I could see you. Come on over. We'll have a talk. That's all that was, in my opinion. As far as other Patrick Kane rumors go, I heard the Dallas Stars, the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Carolina Hurricanes, New York Rangers, but he's not going to go back to the New York Rangers. I don't think, are possibly some of the other teams he wants to go to. I also don't think he's going to go to Tampa. And like I said, I don't think he's going to go to Toronto, and that's just my prediction. I think he wants to go to a serious cup contending team that has all the tools they have right now. That leads me to a couple teams. First, you could go to the Detroit Red Wings. I think that if the Detroit Red Wings made it to the playoffs, it'd be a really fun option. Larkin and DeBrincat have been playing well together. I'm sure Kane would love to go play with DeBrincat right now. And the Red Wings are one of those teams that if they made the playoffs, they could use a guy like Patrick Kane to get them through this experience, because they're not used to something like that, and potentially take them deep. The other team would be the Dallas Stars, because that would just be, in my opinion, a little bit unfair. I mean, they have their offense in order. They have their defense in order. They got their goaltending in order. I mean, Kane would be an unreal addition to that lineup. And I think that out of all the teams we've mentioned and out of all the real possibilities, he'd fit the best in there, because they don't really have to do anything for Patrick Kane. Like, it's just my theory. But I think that Kane is looking more on to win a cup this year, which is why I find myself circling back to Dallas. They're the only threat of the teams I've named that I think could really win the cup this year, of all the teams that I mentioned. That doesn't mean that none of the other teams won't. I just don't see any of the other ones that he could potentially go to winning the cup this year. So maybe the Hurricanes, but I just don't see him going to the Hurricanes. It seems like the Dallas Stars is the best fit for Kane this year.
I think they're one of the best fits. I would probably put them 2. If I were Patrick Kane, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, and I've been jock sniffing this team for 3 years. I know. If I were Kane, I would go to Florida. He's set to meet with them. They have plenty of room for him. Up front, he'd be joined by stars like Verhaeghe and Barkov and Tkachuk. They are one of the best defensive teams in the NHL. And they don't even have Montour and Ekblad yet. They just got Sam Bennett back 2 games ago. He's already back to looking like the old D-hole Sam Bennett that we all know and love. You know, he was mucking it up yesterday. I was watching them play the Sharks. Friend of the program, John Buccigross, was calling the game. I was watching it late at night from bed. Unreal. And they're going to get Ekblad and Montour back and get even better. And right now, the Florida Panthers are 10-4-1. They started 0-3. They're 8-1-1 in their last 10. They've won 5 in a row. It's the best streak going in the NHL right now, tied with the Pittsburgh Penguins, who have won 5 in a row. Conveniently enough, those are the two teams I argued for against with Frankie in the preseason, not to brag. But I'm Pittsburgh. You might be right on Pittsburgh. I don't think you're right on Florida, but we're going to go 1-1 on that battle, I think. But because I even hate the way Pittsburgh wins, losing or needed that crazy comeback and a Sid hat trick to beat the Blue Jackets last night. Like, no thing. There are quality wins and there are you got lucky wins. And yesterday was one. I'm not too high on Pittsburgh right now. I hope I'm wrong. I want them to be in the mix because I like Crosby and Malkin. But back to the Panthers, I think they're sick. If I were Kaner, I'd go live in warm Sunrise. And do you hear me say warmy? Warmy Sunrise. Go live in warmy Sunrise if you're Patrick Kane and you put on that Panthers uniform and you play. You don't need to be the guy. We know Kaner has had success playing on a power play with a guy like Jonathan Toews. Well, the closest thing to Jonathan Toews in the NHL right now is Barkov. Like I always say, the closest thing to Patrice Bergeron in the NHL right now is Nico Hischier. Well, the closest thing to Jonathan Toews in the NHL right now is Barkov. And Kane, I think it would just work out so well. And I love the makeup of that team. They have everything. Bob's playing outstanding. They're even getting good goaltending from what's-his-face. Who was in net last night? I'm drawing a blank on his name. It wasn't Bob in net yesterday. They've just been really, really good. I like what the Panthers are doing, and they are meeting with Kane. That is like a confirmed fact, and that's where I would sign if I were him. But Dallas would be a close second.
Interesting. Will one of us be right?
Probably not.
I think he's dumb if he goes to any other team.
There's one mediocre team that I think he could go to that I think he would help them not be mediocre anymore. And they're about to throw someone on LTIR, which would open up tons of money, and they could figure it out a little longer until that guy comes back. Buffalo.
I get it. He's from Buffalo. Great story, right? DeBrincat did it going to Detroit, but I don't know. He's not going to want to go to Buffalo, I don't think. If his goal is really to win the cup, is Buffalo going to win the cup getting Patrick Kane?
No.
It's not going to happen. They're not going to win the cup this year getting Patrick Kane. I think that's his main goal.
I think they make playoffs.
But he's made the playoffs how many times in his career? He don't want
yeah. I get
he wants
that.
a cup.
I know.
That's what I think is going to set him back a little bit.
You're right. How do you feel about Detroit? Like your personal feelings?
I think Detroit's out of Ottawa, Detroit, Buffalo. I think it's clear Detroit's the best of the up and coming young teams to where they will probably make the playoffs. And if they get in the playoffs, the way Larkin and DeBrincat are playing right now, you add Patrick Kane into there. I mean, I don't know. I think that's cup contender worthy potentially. They've been playing tough all year. They gave the Bruins, didn't they beat the Bruins? They beat the Bruins.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that you never know. You get into the playoffs. They're a team that I think could really do damage in the playoffs.
What do you expect from Patrick Kane? Realistically.
Not much, to be honest with you. I'm like, what do you mean, point wise or?
Yeah. Like, what is his? Let's say he gets in 60 games this season. 60 games. What are you expecting from him?
25 goals.
That's a lot.
I know.
So you are expecting him to come back and play well?
No, I'm not expecting him to, like, if he played I think a lot of people are expecting 30 plus. I'm expecting anywhere from 20 to 25.
If he scores 30 plus in 60 games, that's like a 55 goal pace.
Right, and I just don't think that's going to happen.
No, of course not. 25's a lot.
I expect anywhere from 20 to 25.
I'll go 18 to 22 goals. He had 21 last year in 70-something games played. Now, his hip is better. That was clearly hindering him last year. He was really only productive on the power play. All the metrics say Patrick Kane stunk at 5-on-5 last season. And there were Ranger fans that were pissed that they traded for him. And they ended up kind of being right because outside of the one sick goal he scored against Vanacek, I'm leaning more towards
playoffs. I'm leaning more towards 20 goals.
Okay.
20 goals, maybe 28 assists. That's where I'm
So you got him near point per game.
not really.
I like
It's more like
Foster's projection, 36 to 45 points.
I have him at 48 points.
Yeah, okay. That's fair in 60 games. So you're seeing a lot of goals, but which whoever signs him is going to want him to score. They're not looking for 70 assists anymore. You
Right.
know, he's a winger too. So like whenever the Hawks got those 40 goals, 60 assist seasons from Patrick Kane, that's like unheard of from wingers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, who can do that in the NHL? I think Brat can if Hughes is healthy. Um, Timo Meyer, he'll get 40 goals. He ain't touching 60 assists. Marner's never scoring 40 goals. What are you talking about, EP? Nylander might be able to do 40, 60 as a winger. Ovechkin never really even got close to 60 assists. You know, he maybe the 1 year where he had like 110 points, he probably had more than 60 assists. But like for the most part, the wingers come in and they're supposed to score goals created for them by their centermen.
Right.
And that's why the Devils have fallen off a cliff since Hughes and Heischer went out, because other than Timo Meyer, all the wingers forgot how to score because they don't have the puck in, you know, easy to score areas because the centermen, the elite centermen that they have aren't there anymore. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, people are shocked that they're losing. I'm like, duh, they're losing. Like if you took frickin' Nate Dogg and Johansson off the Avalanche, they would struggle. I guarantee it. If you took Robertson and Rupe Hintz off the Stars, they would struggle. I'm very, very confident in that. And I don't know. Patrick Kane, he'll make an impact. The team won't be worse for having him.
No.
I don't think. He's a 3-time Stanley Cup champion. He's won the Conn Smythe Trophy as the MVP of the playoffs. He's won the Hart Trophy as the MVP of the regular season. He's won a scoring title. He's got over 1,200 points. He's one of the best players ever. So, do you think, really quick, and then we'll wrap up the Patrick Kane conversation, the all-time leading scoring Blackhawk is on the table for Patrick Kane? That is a reachable record for him if he were to come back and play for the Hawks. Are you at a 0% chance on that?
Well, how far back is he?
I think he's like 200 points away.
Yeah, he's not going to get 200 points with the Hawks again. He might have another stint with us in 3 years, 4 years if he wants to come back and the Hawks are in contending mode with Bedard. He might obviously he's going to end his career with the Blackhawk, whether he signs a 1-day contract down the line. There's no way he's going to sign with us that long though, and yeah, that's off the table.
Okay.
200 points is a lot.
You think Patrick Kane has 200 more points in him in general?
Yeah, I think he could have 200 more points in him in general, but by the time he's ready to come back to the Hawks, if there is an opportunity where that does end up happening, I mean, he's VP. He's getting old. I mean, we're talking like 4 or 5 years down the line. He's even older. Not getting 200 points with the Hawks on the line, but definitely in his career, 200 points on the table for sure.
I was thinking if he does the idea of getting that record entice him to sign a 3-year deal with the Hawks right now? That's what I was asking.
Oh, no, he's not. No, he's not going to sign a 3-year. That's off the table.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't say. Yeah, he turns 35 on.
Yeah,
he turns 35. When's the 19th? When's the 19th? Saturday.
Yeah, 4 days.
He turns 35 on Saturday.
No, Sunday.
So, I if he goes 50, 50, 50, 50, that's 200 points. Math. Yeah, I don't think so either.
He's not looking to sign with the Blackhawks. It's just if this was 3-4 years from now, I think it'd be a real possibility. I think he would.
Like when Sharp came back for a year?
Yeah.
It's possible. We'll see. We're going to talk about Bedard in a minute because that dude, man.
It's not bad.
We talked about a bunch of teams from Canada here in period number 1. At least that was the center point of conversation. Now we're going to get to a couple U.S.-based teams in period number 2. Were you worried I froze for even a millisecond of time?
No.
Okay. Frank, The Los Angeles Kings played, I think it was the night of our last show, that following evening.
It was.
Anze Kopitar scored his 400th career goal. Frank, I got a bone to pick with you, with me, with Joey, with everybody in the chat, everybody who loves hockey. I mean this. Unless you're from the state of California. I was looking at Kopitar's numbers the other day, and I was thinking to myself, wow, this man has been, if he's a tick below Bergeron, it is a millitic. Everybody, Bergeron, most Selkies ever. He's the best two-way forward who ever lived. I'm looking at Kopitar's stats. I'm like, if this guy had these stats and his sweater was blue and said Rangers across the chest, shit, if his sweater was red and had an N and a J on it, I firmly believe we would see Kopitar in the same realm as Bergeron. And guys like you and I know he's that good, but we don't talk about him like that. When you think of Anze Kopitar is right there with Bergeron in terms of career ability, achievement, everything. He's won 2 cups. Bergeron only won 1. I love Patrice Bergeron. He's one of my 5 favorite players who ever lived. I would name my kid Patrice. That's how much I love Patrice Bergeron. This man, Kopitar, I mean, we're talking about a generational two-way player. He has, in his career, so he's won the Selke Trophy twice, which is it's 3 times less than Bergeron has won it. He's 36. He's probably not going to tie Bergeron. In his career, he has 400 goals and 755 assists for 1,155 points. His career Corsi is 54%. If you're at 50, you're an elite two-way player. He's at 54. This season, he's at 56. It's only been 14 games. At 36 years old, he's point per game with 7 goals and 7 assists. He is unequivocally one of the best players who ever lived. He is a top 100 player of all time. I will not take no for an answer. You're not going to tell me that Buddy Malone or Two Chip Carey or, make up a name of a guy that's 100 years old wasn't better than Kopitar. You're just not going to tell me that. That list of top 100 players, yeah, they like to give their nods to certain areas in certain eras. Anze Kopitar is a Hall of Famer. He will be first ballot, and I was super stoked to see him get 400 career goals.
He's now the 4th LA Kings player to score 400 goals too in the franchise. So cementing his legacy with the Kings even further.
I bet Gretzky's not one of the 3 ahead of him.
He's not. He's not. There were some, I think Marcel Dion, and there were some other names that I'm not really familiar. But nonetheless, he's one of those players in the NHL. And I'm glad you said it, because I kind of was going through his stats the same way you did and thinking the same thing, that he's aged like a fine wine. I mean, he's been in the NHL for 17 years, and he's still getting 60 to 70 points per year and helping his teams to the playoffs each year. And even this year, he's got 14 points through 14 games. He's 36 years old, and he doesn't get enough credit. Not enough people are talking about him. Like, we all talk about Crosby, and we all talk about like Malkin and Bergeron and how they're getting older and they're still playing great. Well, we don't say a damn peep about Anze Kopitar. It's like nobody's respecting him enough, and he's a Hall of Famer. And at 36 years of age, he's still playing like he's in his prime. His past 2 seasons at ages 34 and 35 were some of the best he's ever played in his career, and some of the best years even better than he was in his prime. And he's on pace for 82 points this year. I mean, this guy just doesn't age. He's like the ageless wonder, and I just don't think we talk enough about Anze Kopitar, because his success has been kind of masked up, and I don't know why. I don't know why we haven't talked about him. Is it because he's a Los Angeles King, like you said? Is it because he's not wearing a more notable jersey? I mean, it's a shame, because what he's been doing is truly remarkable, especially at his age. And I completely agree. He is just a tick under Bergeron as being one of the best two-way forwards to ever live. And he had 2 Selkies. The only reason he didn't have more is because Patrice Bergeron played in the league. If Patrice Bergeron didn't exist, Anze Kopitar would be the Patrice Bergeron. He'd have about 6 of them. I truly believe that.
There's probably a year or two where Kopitar deserved it more than Bergeron too. But
Absolutely.
the Boston Bruins are going to get, and I love the Bruins. I love them. They're my second favorite team. They're tied for my second favorite team. I love Bergeron. I literally just said I would name my kid boy or girl Patrice. I mean it. I love that man. He's my all-time favorite Bruin. I am biased towards Patrice Bergeron.
Yeah.
I would have voted for him for the Selke too because I like him more. But at least I'm man enough to admit it. Kopitar is right there. They probably deserved to split a couple of the Selkies if we're being. And you throw one in there for Taves. I know Barkov was in the mix a couple times. Mikko Koivu was outstanding as a two-way forward. Jordan Stahl was always in the mix. But you know, Kopitar is unreal, dude.
It's kind of crazy he's only won 2.
And why aren't the Kings in that conversation though? Like, if you told me he didn't get enough recognition because he was playing with the Sharks or, the Arizona Coyotes, okay.
Yeah, the Kings are a good team. Like, they should be recognizable.
And it's Los Angeles. I know they're not on the mount. They're not on my Mount Rushmore of sports cities, but they're probably 5th or 6th. Right? Like, why is this a thing? Why do we have teams over there if we're not going to treat them equally?
Right.
It makes no sense.
They've won a couple cups.
We're going to start treating them equally. We need to get Kopitar more recognition. This man is a dog.
So good. He's so good.
So good. He beat the Devils in the Stanley Cup final. He had an overtime game-winning goal in Game 1. He don't score that. And I think like the shift before, Kovalchuk hit the post. And then like a minute or two later, frickin' Kopitar scored the. If Kovalchuk scores there and Kopitar never does, the Devils might have won the Stanley Cup that year. Like,
hey, he also beat Hall of Famer Henrik Lundqvist.
Yep.
I mean, this guy's done a lot. He's really done a lot, man.
Isn't that a good way to shove it up the Eastern's hoop, though? Kopitar's 2 cups are against the Devils and the Rangers.
Yeah.
I mean, good. It was one of my saddest sports moments in life was watching Zach Parise shake Dustin Brown's hand. It is one of my saddest sports moments in life. I would say it's number 1. That is the number 1 saddest I've ever been. For a couple other reasons, that was the worst day of my life in a lot of ways. But that was just nasty business, and I hated every second of it. And Kopitar is a big reason for it. I'm man enough to admit why it was. It's bullshit that we don't talk about him more. I'm getting a Kopitar jersey. I'm going to start rocking it because, dude, you have a Kings jersey. You could dress up a Kings jersey. You could throw one on and just wear it like a loser, like I'm doing with this Avalanche jersey right now. But you could throw on a nice pair of pants and do your hair up a little bit, and you can make a Los Angeles Kings jersey look swagalicious.
Absolutely. 100%.
Speaking of Hall of Fame, Frank, which Kopitar will be going in the other day, we had a couple inductions on Monday night. Your thoughts?
Obviously, for me, it was really cool to see Lundqvist entering into the Hall of Fame. And having his Hall of Fame plaque handed to him by Patrick Waugh made it even cooler. But this was a very goaltender-heavy Hall of Fame. It just didn't end at Henrik Lundqvist. Mike Vernon, Tom Barrasso were also other goaltenders that received Hall of Fame honors this year. And 3 goalies might not seem like a lot, but when the spots every year are limited, trust me, it's a lot. This was the first time that 3 goaltenders entered the Hall of Fame together in more than 60 years. So that is just how rare it is to have all these goalies enter the Hall of Fame. Really cool experience. Ken Hitchcock, another guy I watched coach for many of my hockey watching days of my life, inducted in the Hall of Fame as well. We're getting to that point now going forward, and it really starting this year, where there's just going to be tons and tons and tons of guys that we start to know and recognize because we're getting older. They've been out of the NHL for so long, so now they're eligible. And I mean, it's a cool experience. I think we're going to appreciate it more and more as we get older.
I completely agree. It is getting, like, when we first started, it was a bunch of guys that we had heard of,
But we never
but
got to
we
watch.
didn't get to see him. I remember when Marty got in. That was the first time, which Marty Brodeur, I mean, in a lot of people's opinion, including mine, he's the greatest goaltender who ever lived. Most rational hockey fans, at minimum, have him top 3. And so him getting into the Hall of Fame was a lock. But I think seeing a guy that I watched play a lot of games get into the Hall of Fame, that was when I was like, okay, going forward, it's going to really be a lot of guys that I've watched and,
Right.
took the time. So next year's class, the guys on the ballot for the first time that are leading the kind of class are Pavel Datsyuk and Shea Weber.
See,
Like
that's insane.
guys we watched. Shea Weber probably ruined your life a couple times,
Oh, yeah.
scoring big goals for the Nashville Predators against the Blackhawks. And
Datsyuk, too.
the Datsyuk
Don't
too. I
forget
mean,
they were in the Western Conference. So.
yeah, I mean they were on that Detroit team that had a 3-1 lead, and Datsyuk was probably the best player in that series for either team. Even though the Hawks ended up winning in the end, it was a lot more of a team type of comeback win. You got a goal from Kane here and a goal from Taves here and Hossa there. Datsyuk and Zetterberg alone got Detroit out to a 3-1 lead. Zetterberg's on the ballot too, oddly enough. I think it took Datsyuk an extra year to get on the ballot because he was still playing in Russia for that extra year. I think that's why him and Zetterberg are going on at the same time. But they are in a good spot with the Hall of Fame. There's good players going in every year, and I loved seeing Lundqvist. I'm one of those people who, when my rivals retire, I think about how much they pissed me off, and I use that as a barometer for respect.
Mm-hmm.
There were times where Henrik Lundqvist, he just wasn't giving up a goal. And like the Devils, a lot of his good years on the back half of his career, the Devils were a stinky team. You got guys like Damian Brunner and Dinas Zubris and Adam Henrique and, these guys who are good players, but they shouldn't be, the top 5 scorers on your team. Those were those types of years, but the Devils got their one piece of cake from Henrik Lundqvist in that 2012 season before Kopitar, oddly enough, ruined it all for them. But they got that big win over the Lundqvist and the Rangers in Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals. But, congrats to all the people that made it, especially Sexy Lundqvist. I have no problem calling him Sexy Lundqvist. Did you see him during his speech?
Look great.
I mean, I know we see him do Wednesday night hockey every week, and he has a different, perfectly fitted suit every single.
He always looks great. It's Henrik Lundqvist.
Yeah. He's just a Swedish man model. That's what he is.
If he wasn't a hockey player, he'd be a model.
Yeah. I mean,
100%.
he is a model and a hockey player. But you're saying he's like a full-time model. Well, have you seen, he's a twin.
Is this a joke?
No.
He's got a brother?
He has an identical twin that looks just like him. And he played, I don't think he's a goalie, though. I think he's a forward.
He plays hockey.
He played with Lundqvist at Team Sweden in the World Championships. He wasn't good enough to be an Olympian on Team Sweden, but the World Champions, it's every summer right in June, the playoffs are kind of still going on at this. Kane played in one year. Kane and Jack Hughes were line mates right after the Devils took Jack Hughes first overall. Patrick Kane, when the Hawks got eliminated, went over and played with Jack Hughes on the same line. Lundqvist's brother played in that year one time with him because normally Lundqvist couldn't go because the Rangers were making deep playoff runs. But there was one year the Rangers got eliminated early and Lundqvist went over and played with his brother. That was really cool. So just an all-time great career. Very happy for him. And we'll be seeing lots of Lundqvist going forward. He's going to be on TV for a long time, I think.
Henrik Lundqvist.
Rangers goal. That guy's a douche.
Number 30. I love when they would announce it.
Yep. Number 30. Henrik Lundqvist. Very, very funny.
I always remember that.
And then them going from Lundqvist to Shesterkin, though, is quite literally, that does keep me up at night sometimes. Because, like, the Devils went from Brodeur to Schneider, which was awesome. And then after Schneider, it's just been shit goalie after shit goalie. But, so hopefully that means after Shesterkin, they get a shit goalie after shit goalie situation, but probably not. But, hey, I thought Jordan Love would be third in line after Favre and Rodgers, and they would ruin my life during football season. and that is not the case. Jordan Love stinks. So we'll see what happens with the Rangers going forward in terms of goaltending after Shesterkin. Although Shesterkin, I'm saying after Shesterkin as if he's not going to be in my face for the next 10 years.
Igor. Damn
Igor. Igor, he's damn good.
He is good.
I think he's on a Hall of Fame trajectory. He's not one of those guys that like if he retired today, he'd get in. He's not one of those guys. Like, but
he's got to keep it up.
Yeah. Is Tuukka Rask a Hall of Famer?
That's tough.
It's close.
I would say no. I don't think so.
Okay.
It's close. It's close.
I hope he gets in. You know why I hope he gets in? The only thing I've ever hated about Bruins fans was the way they treated Tuukka Rask. They acted like he was a shit goalie. Dude's got a .925 save percentage. He gives up a goal to Crosby in the playoffs, and everybody wants Tuukka out of town. Well, let me tell you something. Crosby scored a lot of goals on a lot of goalies. Idiots.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Are you looking at his statistics?
Yeah.
I mean, his career save percentage, dude.
I can't. Where is his other? It's a good save percentage.
A good save percentage. If Frank, my logic for goalies,
.921.
Would his career statistics win him the Vezina Trophy if they were single season statistics?
But then again, if he's a Hall of Famer, is Corey Crawford a Hall of Famer?
I think
Crawford had a better career save percentage than Tuukka Rask.
I've been on the Crawford as a borderline Hall of Famer for a long time.
It's like right there. He had a .918.
I've been on the Corey Crawford as a borderline Hall of Fame train for a long time.
And because Crawford's not going to get it, I don't think you give it to Tuukka either. They're like right there. They're like,
well, Tuukka has one thing that Crawford doesn't, and they do look at this. Tuukka has won the Vezina Trophy. They do look at league awards. That's the only knock on Crawford, is that he never won the Vezina. But
it's tough.
The Hawks never ran Crawford out for 70 games, though. It was always hard to vote for him to win the Vezina because Ray Emery started 35, 40 games, or Scott Darling started 35, 40 games. Tuukka Rask, you look at his seasons, 65 games, 64 games, 70 games. I mean, this guy was a workhorse.
It's tough.
It is tough. It's tough.
I'd probably lean towards no. It's razor thin, though.
Let's compare him to Henrik Lundqvist.
But I feel like Henrik Lundqvist, it's like there was a different bias there.
Yeah, Tuukka's numbers are way better than Henrik Lundqvist.
Yeah, I know, but Corey Crawford's numbers are better than Henrik Lundqvist too. But it's like there's a different bias for Henrik Lundqvist.
I would put Crawford in the Hall of Fame.
See, I don't know. I don't think I
would. Crawford doesn't have the Vezina though. Lundqvist and Rask do. So we'll see. I'm on the Tuukka to the Hall of Fame train. Let's go, Tuukka.
If he gets in, it's not first ballot.
No. I don't think so either. Carey Price will get in. I think probably first ballot. But outside of him, what goalie from that generation, like Vasilevsky, will be first ballot. But Shesterkin's on that trajectory. And if he doesn't make it to the Hall of Fame, it'll be like a discussion like Crawford. Like that good. But I don't know, man. The Hall of Fame is fun to discuss. You know what else is fun to discuss, Frank? We're only 15, 16 games into this thing, depending on what team you're talking about. I think back at, and Bucci tweeted this after me, my tweet got like 150 likes, so there's no way it didn't come across his timeline, and he stole the idea from me. I wholeheartedly believe that, because I tweeted it like 7 hours earlier, and then he tweeted it. I went down a rabbit hole, and Bucci tweeted that he did this too. 12 hours later, you could go look at the timestamps on the tweet. I was looking at the top 3 in every draft for like the last 30 years because I don't care about the 80s or the 90s. That's comparing apples to oranges when goalies were wearing newspapers for pads. It might not be a more productive out of the gate top 3 in the NHL draft than 2023. There are top 3 picks from drafts before 23 that haven't made their debut yet. I think the world of Simon Nemec. He's lighting the AHL up on fire. He hasn't made his NHL debut yet. He went second overall in 22. And everyone, the consensus was that the 22 draft was weak compared to some other drafts, but there were some good players there. Bedard, Carlson, and Fantilli, all three of them. Bedard had the sick 2-goal game, and Leo Carlson and Fantilli were like, "Oh yeah, oh yeah." Fantilli scoring goals in the air. I mean, this guy's scoring goals in the air. Leo Carlson's getting hat tricks or making cross-seam power play game-winning goal passes to McTavish. All three of these guys are superstars. Speaking of the Hall of Fame, have the top three in a draft ever gone to the Hall of Fame? I don't know. I'm sure it's happened. I really am probably sure it's happened. But like these three guys, the way they've started in the NHL so far, superstars make their teams worth watching every single day. And that goes for all three of them. And it pisses me off. I know San Jose got a really good player in Will Smith. I think he's going to be a stud. They're going to regret not taking Michkov. And it could have been the top four. Michkov is dominating the KHL the way no other 18-year-old has ever in the history of the world. And you could have had him in San Jose. Instead, you got Will Smith, who's great. But Will Smith is playing in the NCAA, which is, I love college hockey. I tweet about it all the time. I write about it all the time. It's not the KHL. And Michkov is dominating the KHL more than Will Smith is dominating college hockey. So, dumb on them, I guess. But Bedard, Carlson, Fantilli, what are your thoughts?
Connor Bedard got his first multi-point game and multi-goal game of the season in one game. The floodgates were let open against the Tampa Bay Lightning. 2 goals and 2 assists for Bedard. Then the next game against the Florida Panthers, he nuts 2 goals, has 4 goals in his last 2 games. He's back up to a point per game. I still see him finishing with 82 points. And he's just getting better as the season goes on. And I think that they may start to come in bunches now because once the floodgates are open, it doesn't close very easily. I mean, it's tremendous what we're seeing. I mean, this is the Connor Bedard we're waiting for. And it's like a beast is being unleashed. And then for Leo Carlson, he became the first rookie this season to record a hat trick. He had 3 goals against the Philadelphia Flyers. And he's got a nice 8 points right now in the year. He's only played in 10 games, missed 5 games so far this year. But that just proves of like he doesn't have as many games played as maybe Fantilli or Bedard, but he's scoring hat tricks. And it takes some guys, some veterans, years before they get hat tricks. So Leo Carlson, he's lighting it up with the Ducks. Adam Fantilli had a little goal scoring streak of his own. He had a goal in 2 straight games and a point in 3 straight games. Obviously, that came to an end last night against the Pittsburgh Penguins. But all 3 rookies are playing great nonetheless. Obviously, Bedard has been the more consistent, I'd say, of the 3. Maybe because he's played a little bit more, but I'm pretty sure he's played. I don't know if Fantilli's missed any games. I don't think he has. So, but right now, Bedard has obviously been the most dynamic, I'd say, because he's leading all rookies in goals. But hopefully the success continues for all of them. I love what I'm seeing from these young guys, and I'm a big fan of Leo Carlson. I really am. I mean, this kid's unreal.
Me too.
I like him better than Fantilli. I've told you that. I think come down the line, he's going to have a better career than Fantilli, but we'll see.
I like them both equally. I hope they both play in 1,500 games and each have 1,000 points. I think that's possible. I mean, I really do. They are both unreal. They're both different. Leo Carlson's a little more silky smooth. Leo Carlson is the exact type of player you would expect the Blue Jackets to draft. And Fantilli is the exact kind of player you would expect the Ducks to draft. If you think about like their history, when were the Ducks great? Who were their best players? It was Getzlaf, Perry, and Kessler.
Mm-hmm.
Fantilli might be like a melting pot of those 3 players. And then you think of Leo Carlson, who are the best players in Blue Jackets history? Marian Gaborik, Rick Nash, and Artemi Panarin. You probably mix those 3 together and you get Carlson. They're on opposite teams. I think that's great. I like seeing the kind of change of direction a little bit. It's not as vanilla as you would expect from those teams. So, I'm excited. I think it worked out well for everybody. I really do. Leo Carlson didn't care what team drafted him. He has no local ties to the United States. Fantilli, he didn't have to move very far, He's down in Columbus after playing college hockey up in Ann Arbor, and it's just great, great stuff. I mean, the goal he scored, the goal Fantilli scored, where he shot it in and it bounced off the board and he hit it out of midair into the net. And I'm like, what even is this league right now? And Carlson, the best play he made, I know he had a hat trick, but my favorite play he made was like the little pass he made to McTavish. It doesn't look like much, but if you've ever stepped on skates and you go out there with a stick and a puck, to put it through a defender at just the perfectly slow speed where it would reach McTavish's stick right as he was approaching it, because McTavish caught the pass in stride and shot the goal. The way that happened, I was just like, this kid is just smarter than he might be smarter than Bedard. Bedard's more talented than all of them can, but like Leo Carlson's brain combined with his mitts, the fact that he's scoring goals impresses me, Carlson, because I knew Fantilli and Bedard were going to score some goals. I thought Leo Carlson would probably have 15, 20 goals and maybe like 40 assists as like a rookie. These guys could all be 25, 40 guys and all have 65 plus points. I think Bedard goes over 40. I like my preseason prediction on that. But I mean, for Fantilli and Carlson, it's just been unreal. Bedard scored 2 goals that made me question my entire existence over the last handful of games.
That one where he stole it away from
That's one of them.
Oh
He
my
took it away
god.
from the Florida defenseman. I'm drawing a blank on his name, but I know the
It
Florida
was
coach,
filthy.
Paul Maurice, was like praising the defenseman that happened to, and he's like, that like it takes a special player like Bedard to, make a play like that against him.
It
And
was unbelievable.
he stole the puck, and he had Bob's jockstrap hanging from the rafters because Bob's a great goalie. He's won the Vezina Trophy twice. He was in the Stanley Cup final last year. I am leaning towards him being a Hall of Famer. I really am. I know we've had that discussion before. But even if he's not, he's just short if he misses. But Bob thought for sure that from that angle, Bedard was passing it. And he roofed it. He put it in the only place it could have been to not hit the post or the goalie. And it's like in the blink of an eye, it's a goal. Like in less than 5 milliseconds, it was stolen goal. And just the fact that Bedard has the ability to do that at 18, 19 years old, however the age old he is, he just turned 18 on your birthday.
Mm-hmm.
He's 18. He's the youngest player in the league. And he was able to do that was just monumentally stupid. And then there was the goal he scored against Tampa Bay a couple nights prior,
I know
where
what you're talking about.
it was was it his first goal of the game or his second? It was probably his second. He slashed the puck away from the Tampa Bay defender, but he did it. You could tell he did it on purpose, but it doesn't look like he did it on purpose if you don't really watch hockey all that often. Does that make sense? I know for a fact he did it on purpose because he knew that he had Foligno behind him breaking. And Bedard tapped it and it went to Foligno. And instead of Foligno taking the puck up or shooting it in and going for a dump and chase, he gets the puck back to Bedard with a sick little backhand. And then Bedard just makes a silky sweet move, a forehand backhand goal. And there was a little bit of luck involved with it sneaking through the Tampa Bay goalie, but there was no luck involved with setting the goal up. And sometimes that's the hockey gods at play. We'll let this puck sneak through because of how you got yourself in this position. The fact that he created that turnover, to me, an 18-year-old creating a turnover like that is far more impressive than any goal he could score. And the fact that a goal came from it is why I'm so impressed by it, because the way he just tapped, and he tapped it in such a way where it could only go to Foligno. Mm-hmm. And it was on the Tampa Bay defender's stick. He didn't poke it off the guy's stick so Foligno could go get it. He poked it off the guy's stick onto Foligno's in stride. And it was just one of the most crazy things I've ever seen.
It was crazy.
Honestly, this kid is unreal. I said it for a long time. He's going to be right there competing for second best player in the league behind McDavid. And then I think there probably comes a point where he just is the second best player in the league. And like guys like Jack Hughes and Nathan McKinnon, they'll win a Hart Trophy here and there. But like Connor Bedard, he's the real deal, man. He's right there with those guys right now at 18 years old. He is box
Crazy.
office, and man, do I love seeing it.
You think he wins Rookie of the Year? Or are you still iffy?
No, I'm not. I was never really iffy. I think if the season were to end today, it would be Bedard. The two defensemen might be with him. Mintyukov has 10 points and Luke Hughes has 8, and they're defensemen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing I wanted to bring up. Bedard, Carlson, Fantilli, they're like lighting the world on fire as rookies, and they're not even the only rookies in the league dominating right now. Logan Cooley's unreal. Brock Faber is playing number 1 minutes on Minnesota's top pair, and he's playing very well in that role. Mintyukov on the Ducks, and that could hurt each other's case, having 2 top rookies on the same team like that.
Mm-hmm.
But any one of those guys that I just named, I think Bedard's in the lead right now, though, because he's got 9 goals. And if he scores 40 goals as a rookie, I mean, it's going to be hard to argue with that at that point. So, yeah, as of right now, I would put him the leader. I would put Mintyukov second, and I would put either Luke Hughes or Leo Carlson third.
Very fair.
Yeah, very, very fair. Another rookie defenseman, though, Frank. Kevin Korchinski finally scored his first NHL goal, and the Blackhawks, they're getting exactly what they need from their young guns right now. Your thoughts?
Yeah, Kevin Korchinski got his first goal in the NHL off a shot off of a Taylor Radish's skate blade. That was unbelievable. I mean, besides Connor Bedard, the most talked about players on this team are Alex Vlasic and Kevin Korchinski, our 2 rookie defensemen who are playing great. For the past handful of years since the Blackhawks have been truly bad, the talks were about building a core that they could win it all with, and they're doing just that. I mean, since the Blackhawks have really been on the decline, most of the other talks were about how bad the defense was and that this team needs to draft defensemen because they're going to let a lot of goals in. And that is all changing right now. Like, yeah, this team is still letting in more goals than they want to, but the difference now is that you have 2 great young kids on defense that are going to be here for a while. They could still use a couple more great defenders, but they're starting to become less and less questions asked when it comes to the defensive side of things. And of course they could use a lot more help on defense. But this is the best off that this defense has been in about 6 to 7 years, in all honesty. And it may not have been the prettiest of goals, but to see that goal go in, it was a big moment, not only for Korchinski, but for the Blackhawks rebuild as well. It was beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm looking back at the draft. Juracek and Nemec were the only 2 defensemen that went ahead of Korchinski, and they're both great, we think, but nothing's proven. And so the fact that the Hawks got a guy at least similar to that level, at 7, and they entered that week of the draft with 0 first-round picks, and they came away with Korchinski and Nazar, and then the one guy that everybody forgets his name,
Sam Renzel.
Sam Renzel. I think they did really, really well, and Kyle Davidson has just been, absolutely unbelievable. So hopefully that continues, and good luck to the Hawks. San Jose finally won a game. They beat Philly, and then they beat Edmonton. Just some quick thoughts on the San Jose Sharks.
Yeah, since the last podcast, they got that second win against the Oilers, and it came on back-to-back games. And since they have gone back-to-back wins, they've stunked it up with their minus 51 goal differential. And we're just halfway through November. The worst team in NHL history was the Washington Capitals in 1975. That was the year they joined the NHL. Their record was 8-67-5. I'm not saying the Sharks are going to be that bad, but if you go to champs or chump.us, it shows the worst 50 NHL teams in history. And right now, based off of winning percentage, it has the 2024 Sharks as the second worst team in NHL history, behind those Washington Capitals from 1975. And this has live updates throughout the season. So it's constantly updating after each game. And I just take that in for a second. The San Jose Sharks right now are second worst in NHL history in terms of their winning percentage. So we're watching one of the worst teams that ever lived. Now I know it might not stay like this for the entire season. I wouldn't think, but that's just how bad the San Jose Sharks truly are. They're a shit show.
Yeah, and they deserved to beat Edmonton. They didn't deserve to beat Philly. Philly outshot them 2-1, and Mackenzie Blackwood stood on his head. And
Mhm.
that's the Mackenzie Blackwood I used to defend with the New Jersey Devils, because when he is healthy, he can be a pretty good goalie. I've seen it.
Mhm.
I'm telling you what my eyeballs have showed me. Shit, I would sign. I would trade to get Blackwood back right now.
Really?
Oh yeah, Schmidt and Vanacek have
Mm.
been awful. They've been terrible. They're like in the bottom 10 percentile in terms of those types of bad goals and stuff. Like they're bad. Frickin' Kyle Connor scored a goal from 100 feet away yesterday. Like, yeah, Blackwood's been good. He was the first star in both of the games they won, and the Sharks played like dog crap in front of them. And the one game they had a point in early in the season when Colorado beat them in a shootout, he had like 50 saves on 51 shots, or it's like he set like a San Jose Sharks record. I don't think I don't think I'm not going to say the future's grim for San Jose, because I do like their prospect farm. It's just going to take a while, and they're in full rebuild mode, and they're as bad as advertised. I do think they will be the worst team in the league with the best odds of winning the draft lottery by the time it's all said and done. Does that mean they'll get Macklin Celebrini or Cole Eiserman? No, but they're giving themselves a better chance. So we'll see what happens with them. Yesterday, they put up a good fight against Florida. They were up 2-1, or they were up 2-1. No, they were tied 1-1, and then Sam Reinhart scored his 12th of the season to give the
Yep.
Panthers a 2-0 or a 2-1 lead, and then San Jose ended up with a 3-2 lead, and Florida needed a comeback late in the third to get it done. So, credit to Florida for extending their 5-game winning streak, and I think they're like all the way back after the 0-3 start. But the San Jose Sharks, they play teams well, and the fact that they've played some teams well and won games that they gave up 50 shots or whatever, like they did to Philly, and they got a point from Colorado. That's what makes me think they won't break Washington's record for the worst team of all time, because the NHL just isn't really designed for a team to be that bad anymore. It's really not even designed for a team to be as good as the Bruins were last year. That's why it took all those years for it to happen. Um, I don't think they're that bad, but they're bad. They're really bad.
Mhm.
But they're fun to watch. I do think they're fun to watch because their fans are obsessed with them getting wins. When they score, those people go ballistic. I'm like, Northern California is a vibe, man. Get me to a San Jose Sharks game.
In the Shark Tank.
Yeah, well, the Shark Tank is top 10 in my bucket list of NHL rinks. I want to see them all,
So do
but like
I.
if I got to like rank them by their importance to me or my priority with them, they would be in the top 10.
Mm.
Um, I don't know. I just like the way the Shark Tank, like when they go on the power play. Ba-da, 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 ba-da,
Who would be
ba-da.
last on your list?
No one would be last because of any
Would it
reason.
be the Coyotes just because it's just a college rink and
No,
like,
they'd be near the top for that reason.
wow.
Yeah.
See, for me,
Um,
like that would be near the bottom on my list. I could go to a Arizona college hockey game, go see it.
that's true. I would like to see an NHL game in that, like, that much of a, what's the word I'm looking for? That
Atmosphere.
that type of atmosphere, like a college atmosphere, but it's a game that is worth 2 NHL points.
Mhm.
Like that to me is interesting. Um, you'd probably be shocked at what number 1 would be. If I could just hop in a portal right now and end up at this rink right now, so I could see a game there, it'd be Montreal,
No,
the
it's not
Bell Center.
super shot.
Because I've heard, I haven't been there obviously, but you know how when you go to the United Center, like you get to the 300 level and the stairs are so steep
Mhm.
because like they kind of just go straight up.
Mhm.
But in the lower bowls, they're not as steep. You kind of
Yeah.
it's like more like this.
Yeah.
The Bell Center is all like the 300 level at the United Center. So all the fans are kind of like just on top of the players.
Yeah.
and so that is so interesting to me, and the fact that it's that like close knit to the like you're that on top of the ice, it's got to
Mhm.
be cool to play there and looking up at the fans being like in that kind of a design.
Mhm.
Um, I think that's really cool. So yeah, the Bell Center. I also feel like hockey and the NHL were invented in Toronto and Montreal, so those are probably the two top ones on my whole list. But man,
Interesting.
boy, do I love hockey.
It's all right.
It's all right. You know what else I love? Not quite as much, but close.
Hmm.
Other sports, which we will talk about in period number 3. Frank, welcome to period number 3.
Football.
I love football too.
It's
I
all right.
really do. I really do love football. I'm watching that game on Monday night, and I'm like, ooh, ooh, ooh.
How about tomorrow night's game?
Oh
Woo!
my God, am I excited for tomorrow night's game? You have no idea, Frank. I'm that's probably the matchup I'm looking forward to the most of any game I've watched so far this season. It was close with the weekend's game between the Jaguars and the 49ers, but then it became a shit show, and the 49ers, they needed to win, and the Jaguars probably needed to lose, and it happened in a big way, so it wasn't all that fun. I don't think that's happening tomorrow. And I think when we give our lists here in a couple seconds, both of those teams are going to be on it rather near the top. So I'm pumped. Should be good. Even though they both lost.
Both what teams are going to be on it near the
The
top?
teams that play tomorrow. Uh-oh. You left one of them off, eh?
No,
Oh.
near the top. I don't know.
Oh.
We'll see.
Yeah, we will see. Well, Frank, it's after an even week. So we are going to give our top 10 NFL teams according to us. I'll let you kick it off at number 10.
My number 10 is a team I've never featured on my list before.
Same.
But I like what they're selling, so I'm going the Cleveland Browns.
You are a major asshole. You really are dumb.
What?
Oh my God. I've been trying to tell you about the Browns for a
I
year.
like what they're selling. I'm slowly
They're not going to
changing.
make playoffs. They
I'm
might not
slowly
now, but
listen. I'm slowly changing my perception of them. The win against the Ravens, that was huge, and they have a real chance of winning the division for the first time since 1989. I wouldn't bank on them doing so, but their big wins lately have kept them in the hunt. It would be crazy to see how this team was doing if they had a healthy Chubb. They aren't playing well enough right now to win a Super Bowl because of the ups and downs that Watson's been facing.
Frankie loves a healthy Chubb.
But if Watson could be more consistent, they have a great defense to back up their potentially potent offense. So I'm
Oh,
giving
so
the
you
Falcons.
don't know.
Oh no.
You don't know
I guess I don't know.
if who could have a healthy or a consistent?
Is Watson gone? Is he injured?
I put him at 10 for this reason. I had him at 5.
Oh no.
I had him at 5.
I don't know.
Deshaun Watson is out for the season with shoulder surgery.
Get him on my 15. Get him out of my top 10.
They're locked into your top 10. You got to leave
Oh
them
my
now.
god.
But I had him at 5 this morning, and I switched.
Ah,
I bumped him down to 10. I have him at 10 as well.
well,
You could finish your explanation, but
that was it.
I
That
couldn't
was
let you
really it.
go. I couldn't let you go further without telling you that.
Oh no. That's
Deshaun
all I got.
Watson is out for the season.
What a bum. He's a
He
bum.
he is
What's the injury?
shoulder surgery.
Fake injury.
He hurt his shoulder in the second quarter in their last game, and he played that with that and a high ankle sprain. So
Well, there's my 10 for you, VP.
tough year for starting quarterbacks.
Yeah, tough year for everybody, really.
Aaron Rodgers, Achilles, which can't wait till he plays. You're telling me I'm on glue. He'll be back with the team full time by the end of November, and he will start mid-December as long as they're in the mix.
Get out
But
of here.
Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, Daniel Jones, Deshaun Watson, Anthony Richardson. A lot of starting quarterbacks gone down. But yeah, Deshaun Watson, he will miss the rest of the season. I have the Browns at 10
It's
too.
tough.
And here's the
It's tough.
thing. Here's the thing. I don't think Deshaun Watson has played all that well. So when I got the news, I took him off of 5, right? I had him at 5. And I was like, because they beat the Ravens. And like, they were they were number 1 on both of our lists last week. And I was like,
The
okay.
Eagles were one on my list last week.
Oh, then you had the Ravens 2 then probably.
3.
3, okay. You had them in the top, near the top. And the Browns got a big comeback win against them. I thought they were worthy of a top 10 spot. They were the first. I haven't had them on my list yet this week, although I almost put them on in preseason. Because I love their defense, and I don't think Deshaun Watson has played all that well.
I've been inconsistent.
I don't think that they are 6-3 because of Deshaun Watson. They've scored 214 points, but they only have 100, or they've only given up 170 points, which is one of the best marks in the AFC. Only the Ravens and Chiefs have given up fewer points than the Browns in the AFC. And I think if whoever comes in, if they can figure out who their Josh Dobbs is, they can go on a streak here where they end up making playoffs. I don't think they can win a Super Bowl without a star quarterback, or at least a guy who you would expect to be a starter. But because I think they could win a Super Bowl with Deshaun Watson.
Oh yeah,
as long as their defense plays well. But their defense is otherworldly, and I think it could only get better as the season goes along. So I have the Browns at 10. But sucks on the quarterback news.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, I guess it's smart pick by me then.
Yeah,
because you put him 10 too.
He's also a piece of shit though, so I'm really not all that bad.
It's a fake injury, I'm telling you.
Maybe. I mean, I don't think so. But at number 9, I have the Minnesota Vikings. I just brought up Josh Dobbs. They're on my list for the first time this year. They've won 5 in a row, which is the longest streak in the NFL. Kirk Cousins goes down. You think they're toast. Wrong. They put in Josh Dobbs. He does exactly what he needs to do. And they're firing on all cylinders right now. And, the team ahead of them in the division is probably in your top 10 as well. They're in mine. They're pretty near the top of mine. But lo and behold, they only have one more win than the Minnesota Vikings, which is just absolutely crazy. And the Vikings, they've been a decent franchise over the last 5 or 6 years. They just have. They haven't won the Super Bowl. They haven't made it to an NFC championship, but only one team wins the Super Bowl. Only 4 teams make the championship Sunday. So, they got beat by better teams. Did they win a playoff game last year? No, I don't think they did. They didn't. And, last year, they had a lot of lucky wins, right? They were 11-0 in 3-point games. That's just unheard of type of business. But with Dobbs coming in and winning 2 without Cousins, I think they find ways to win. They're not good wins. They're like sloppy wins. I think if Jameis Winston starts this game against the Vikings last week and not Derek Carr, the Saints probably beat them, because when Winston came in, it's like the Saints offense was, given this major spark. And I'm like, man, does Derek Carr really stink that much? Because Jameis Winston looks amazing here. And that's the way it is. It's the way it's been. Vikings at 9, though.
I like that pick. Josh Dobbs has been really good. I like the way they've been playing. My number 9, I got the Cincinnati Bengals. I felt like the way the Texans have been playing, it didn't feel right to punish the Bengals for losing to them, because the Texans, CJ Stroud, the whole team's been really good. But I mean, this is a game you got to win for the Bengals because of how poorly they started out the season. So that was a big loss they took at home, but it wasn't worthy enough to bounce the Bengals out of my top 10. I know how great the Bengals are. Bengals were playing in an overdrive. They came into that game winning 4 games in a row. The Bengals' biggest test will obviously come tomorrow night against their division rival, the Baltimore Ravens. And a loss to the Ravens would just be a major setback for the Bengals, because then you're 5-5. Then it's like, all right, we might be out of it then at this point. The margin for error right now is very, very slim for them. They got to be careful, VP. You give me that look, but I don't know. 5-5, they're toast, I think, if they lose to the Ravens. And hopefully Higgins can get back into the lineup sooner rather than later because Burrow needs as many weapons out there on offense as possible. A healthy Burrow and a healthy receivers is deadly recipe for the Cincinnati Bengals. But right now I got them at number 9. My number 8 is the Dallas Cowboys. I almost feel like the Dallas Cowboys are the NFC version of the Miami Dolphins. You guessed it. They lost on the road to the Eagles, which is nothing to blame the Cowboys for. Everyone's losing to the Eagles. But then you come home and destroy the Giants. This team needs to get good on the road. A home playoff game is not guaranteed right now because of their poor road performance. They're 6-3 this year. All 3 of their losses came on the road. They play the Panthers on the road this week, and I swear to God, if they go on the road and lose to the Carolina Panthers, they will be out of my top 10, regardless of what they do the week after when they're home against the Commanders. I'm tired of this Cowboys team. If you're telling me you can't go on the road and beat the Carolina Panthers, you don't deserve to make the playoffs. You don't deserve to win a Super Bowl. Something needs to be changed then in that case scenario. But for right now, I'll keep them at 8. Actually, I think they were 9 last week. I might have bumped them up one, but they're at 8 this week. Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, I booted them. See ya, Dallas. At number 8, I put the Pittsburgh Steelers. I have every team from the AFC North in my top 10. I think the division is that good. Either the Steelers or the Browns or both are going to get booted at some point, I think, because, they're going to play each other late in the year. And, that's kind of happening tomorrow with the game between the Ravens and the Bengals. Like, they have to play each other at some point because they're division rivals and one of them is going to lose, which I'll tell you my theory on the Bengals in a couple minutes. But, yeah, I put the Steelers at 8 because although their offense is stagnant, I think if they had like a well humming offense, they'd probably be in the top 5. That's how high I think of their defense. They've just been otherworldly defensively, and I think it's the Steelers, man. They're one of the best well-rounded franchise in the NFL. I like what they do with some of the weapons. That the offense has been getting better. I do think Kenny Pickett is more of the problem than Matt Canada. I really do. I know a lot of Steelers fire Canada. They chanted at Penguins games and stuff, but the overall makeup of the Steelers to me is a team that continues to win, and sometimes that matters, right? I know that's not the end all be all, but they're 6-3. They've given up 182 points, which, every team in the division has given up fewer than 200. And you look at the rest of the AFC and most teams have given up 200. So I don't know. I think the Steelers, they're right there. They are 4-2 in home and 2-1 on the road. They've won 2 in a row though, and they've looked decent while doing it. The thing I like about the Steelers, they kind of win playoff style football games. They don't go out there and beat you by 20, and you never know what they're going to look like facing adversity. I know what the Steelers are going to look like when they face adversity. So that's why I have them at number 8. At number 7, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars were in my top 5 for the last handful of weeks, but they played the San Francisco 49ers, a team who's probably on par with them in terms of a roster. And San Francisco's probably got a better roster, but Jacksonville has the better quarterback. I think they still deserve to be in the top 10, obviously, but they're one of the best teams in the AFC, but they still have to prove that they can beat one of those top teams. They beat the Bills in London. We'll see what they do against the Bengals and Ravens later in the season, but as of right now, it's looking like one of those teams that they'll be in the playoffs. They'll make you think they're a Super Bowl contender. Will they actually be one, though? I don't know. But so I have them at 7. Trevor Lawrence's statistics don't look amazing, but when you watch the games, you can see the little things he does that he's just trying to win. He's not trying to have 300 yards a game with 4 touchdowns and no picks. He's trying to win. The way he passes it off to ETN and all that. And, I love Christian Kirk's game and all that kind of stuff. It's been fun to watch. So, credit to the Jaguars. I like cheering them on, and all power to them. Number 7.
My number 7 is your number 7 as well. I got the Jacksonville Jaguars. Sad to see the Jaguars take a complete shit at home against the 49ers last week, because what a big win that would have been to add to their resume. But they got some pretty important games coming up against the Bengals, Texans, Titans. Texans right now are right on the Jaguars' heels. They're playing amazing, like I said, with CJ Stroud. Trevor Lawrence just couldn't get anything going last week. ETN couldn't couldn't get anything going this past week against the 49ers. Your best players just can't go unseen in big games like this, which is why I felt like I had to drop them out of my top 5 just slightly. I mean, everyone around him that we're talking about in the rankings had pretty decent weeks. So it was like the only thing I felt like I had to do was just drop them a little bit. I still think they're a top contending team in the NFL right now. Hopefully they rebound. I think they will. And that's just a tough game to play against the 49ers. You know, are the 49ers really going to lose 4 in a row? It's tough to play them when they're on that kind of a streak, but nonetheless, they did end up losing and they sit 7th on my list. 6th on my list is the Miami Dolphins. I really had to sit back and reevaluate the Miami Dolphins a little bit. They were 2 on my list last week. Kind of been giving them the benefit of the doubt, but they truly have the firepower and the weapons to beat just about anyone, but they just can't beat top teams in the NFL. I mean, at this point, we're going into week 11. I had to sit back and really evaluate them. And I said, all right, they're not a top 5 team right now, in my opinion. I mean, they're mopping up against teams that just don't have winning records. They had a chance to cap off a miraculous 21-point comeback to the Chiefs in Germany. The Chiefs didn't even have home field advantage, and you still couldn't get into the groove early on in the game. I mean, come the playoffs, you only play elite teams. You're not playing teams under 500. This could spell trouble for the Miami Dolphins come January, unless something changes in the next 7 or so weeks. But right now, as much as I love this offense and I want to have them higher on my list, I just couldn't. And I found them out of my top 5. So I put them at 6.
There you go. At number 6, I have the Cincinnati Bengals. I didn't love that they lost. You're going to lose, and when you start 1-3, a Week 10 loss is going to obviously look worse than it actually is. I won't bump them out of the top 10 if they barely lose to the Ravens. Like if it's a field goal game winner for the Ravens, or they lose by 3, I'll bump them down from 6 because I'm gonna have to. But I still think of all the teams that are kind of hovering, a lot of the AFC's hovering around 500, and then you have the Ravens and Chiefs ahead of everybody in terms of record, and the rest of the teams are all 6-3 or 5-4 or 5-5. There's a lot of that going around in the AFC, and I think that's because the conference is so much more even, and that's why this is a power rankings, not a record rankings. It's who you think would beat who as we stand right now. I think the Bengals would beat a lot of the teams that I have ahead of them in a playoff game. Like if the Bengals played the Steelers, I think I would take the Bengals in a playoff game right now, like with the way I know about things right now. And so if they lose a game to the Ravens, a team, spoiler, I have ahead of the Bengals on this list. I'm not going to bump them down all that much. Similarly, I only bumped the Jaguars down 2 spots because they got throttled by the 49ers. It'd be a very similar situation for me with the Bengals. If they get blown out by the Ravens and I see that they have no chance against any of the elite teams once the playoffs come around, then they're freaking see ya. But if it's like a close loss and they're 5-5 because of a tough start to the season, then a close, hard-fought battle against Lamar, I'm not going to punish them too much. But as of right now, I have him sitting at number 6. Joe Burrow is the real deal. And again, missing some weapons on offense last week. Who knows how the game looks if those guys all play. We'll see what happens with their game tomorrow on short notice. But, that's where I have him at number 6. At number 5, I'm on my way. I'm on my way. A wee my wet, a wee my wet, a wee my wet. Happy Detroit Lions week to Chicago Bears fans. I have them ranked at number 5. The Detroit Lions are one of the best teams in the NFL. I know people don't want to hear it. They are 9.5-point favorites. Oh, good God. Against the Chicago Bears this week. Justin Fields is going to be back playing against them. Listen, they say it on the Pat McAfee show just about every day. It is not the same old Lions. This is the brand new Lions. If they lose to the Bears, I will off them out of my top 5 quicker than you could possibly imagine, because they don't really have the benefit of the doubt from me in that instance. If they get smoked by Justin Fields and the nasty Chicago Bears, then they're out of here. But as of right now, I've loved everything they've done. What are they, 7-2?
Yep.
I mean, they're just unreal right now. They are looking like a team, like, they're probably not going to get the number 1 seed barring a collapse by the Eagles, but they'll host a playoff game. They'll be the number 2 seed. They'll get whatever shit team is the 7th seed in, the first round, and they'll probably blow. Like, who would that even be right now?
The
Who would?
7th seed?
Yeah, it would probably be the Seahawks.
Seahawks, I
No,
think.
oh no, the Saints are going to host a game. Yeah, it would probably be the
Probably the
Seahawks. Like,
Seahawks, yeah.
I think the Lions would destroy them. I think they would annihilate them. And or if it's the Vikings, a team like that. If it's the Vikings, the Seahawks, the Cowboys, if the Buccaneers pull a rabbit out of their hat, like, it'll be a team like that plays against the Lions in the first round. And I don't see anybody going into Ford Field and taking care of business against them in that situation. The Lions are 3-1 at home and 4-1 on the road. So it's been a little bit of, here and there for them. I have a hard time looking past the fact that it's the Lions, but I don't want to be like how you've been with the Browns. Like, I'm not going to allow myself to consider them the NFC Browns. They've won a lot of games. They pound the ball. David Montgomery, when he's healthy, has been awesome. Their defense is pretty good. Their point differential works in their favor. And, they've won 2 in a row, which winning 2 in a row is a lot harder than you think in the NFL. Only 2 teams in the NFC have won more than 2 games in a row right now. In fact, nobody else has won more than 1 in a row except for Detroit. That's crazy, dude. That's crazy. Nobody has won more than 1 in a row in the NFC except for Detroit, the Vikings, and the Eagles. So, the fact that they're coming in to play the Bears, they're probably going to win by 30. I would take plus 9.5. I would probably take that's a college football line between a good team and like an average team. I would probably take a line involving like a good team and a shit team in college. Give me the Lions plus 21.5 or minus 21.5. I'm being dead serious. I think they're going to blow the brains off the Bears, and credit to them. Credit to them. They built their team the right way, and Jared Goff has looked the part. So, and he's been to a Super Bowl, so there's no reason to think that they would lose because of him.
That is your number 5, right?
That is my number 5.
My number 5 is the Detroit Lions, who are tied for the second best record in the NFL. They have the second best record in the NFC. And they're scoring a lot of points too while they're at it. Their remaining schedule that they have is on the fairly easier side of things with a lot of division games coming up. However, the easy schedule can help them on our power rankings. Montgomery is healthy. We haven't talked about that. He came back. He looked like he didn't miss a beat. And now you got a healthy Montgomery. You got a healthy Gibbs. That's a scary running game they have going on. And then they proved they could throw the ball through the air a ton. They did that against the Chargers. There aren't many teams I could see taking down the Lions at this point. Every team I have listed below them, I think the Lions could beat. So I just like the way they've been playing lately. I thought 5 would be a good spot for the Lions. So I got the Lions at number 5. Number 4, VP. I bumped up the San Francisco 49ers to 4 from 7. I had them at 7 last week. But that was a big win. The 49ers were slowly slipping into irrelevancy as they were on the verge of getting their 4th straight loss handed to them. I mean, if you lose 4 in a row, it's like, what are we doing? Like, are we really that powerhouse? Like, how many teams, if any, have lost 4 in a row during the regular season and then went on to win the Super Bowl? I don't know. I know teams have done it for 3, but 4 in a row, I see at that point, I don't know. But before things got too out of hand, they traveled to Jacksonville and absolutely destroyed the Jaguars, 34-3. There were questions surrounding the 49ers defense in recent weeks. That was one of their biggest, aspects of their team. They have a great defense, but we really didn't see that in the past 3 to 4 weeks. But they made a massive statement by holding one of the best teams in the league to 3 points. I mean, just when all hope seemed to be lost for the 49ers, they make a massive statement that you just can't look away from. Like, we beat the Jaguars by 31 on the road, and I still have a lot of faith in the Jaguars. So for me, that was a huge, huge win for them, especially the way they were playing. So I felt the need to bump them up 3 spots, and they're number 4 on my list.
There you go. One thing I forgot to mention when talking about the Jags, they absolutely stink at home. Like, I'm honestly
They
like,
should just move to London.
yeah, they are 2-3 at home and 4-0 on the road. So,
That's crazy.
and they're 1-3 in Jacksonville. The 2-3, one of those wins was a road win in London.
That's crazy, VP.
Yeah, it's absolutely banana land. So credit to the 49ers though. At number 4, and the home of the Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs. I have them at number 4. Everyone talks their shit about the Chiefs. They're the new Patriots. Everyone hates them. They're too good. This and that. When they go through a little bit of a lull, the Chiefs are dead. I remember hearing Tom Brady's done. Tom Brady was never done. He could have came back and won another Super Bowl if he wanted to. If I were him, I'd sign with the Browns right now. God, that would be awesome. I don't think I'd stop smiling for a week. Tom Brady goes to the Browns. It's not going to happen, but God, that would be awesome. That would be truly,
it'd be pretty
awesome.
cool.
I probably wouldn't sleep tonight. I probably would stay up all night playing Madden. The Chiefs, though, they have the new Tom Brady. Patrick Mahomes is unreal. He makes your local Walmart cashiers look like great receivers. They've kind of struggled on offense at times this year. The fact that Patrick Mahomes is there, though, and the Chiefs have yielded the least amount of points of any team in the AFC, and it's not close. Yeah, their offense, they still have scored 208 points, which, it's not in the top 5 in the AFC, but it's certainly not a bad total to have. And the fact that they have the best defense in the AFC is just a testament to how much of an effort they've put into surrounding Patrick Mahomes with the entire complete team that they've needed. And, man, it's been a ton of fun to watch. So I am looking forward to seeing what they're able to do once the postseason comes around. But anybody who's worrying about the Kansas City Chiefs right now, let me tell you, I don't think so. I think I probably would not be shocked at all if they won the Super Bowl again. I mean, this just feels like one of those years like the Patriots used to have where they kind of like stumble. Okay, regular season. Oh, week 10. Oh, we got the Broncos. Oh, the Dolphins in Germany. Oh, no, we really got to take that flight. That sucks. Wake me up when the playoffs start. Okay, yeah, they're at number 4. I think they're one of the best teams in the league. They probably could use a weapon or two in the offseason. But outside of that, I'm not sure that anybody has anything bad to say about the Chiefs. At number 3, I have the San Francisco 49ers. Like you, I had them pretty low last week, and I loved their win against the Jacksonville Jaguars. They went on the road and stomped a really good team. They held one of the best running backs in the NFL down. They held one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL down. Their defense was very, very good against this good offense. And the Jaguars' defense is very, very good, too. They led the NFL in takeaways going into this game, and Brock Purdy protected the ball perfectly fine. They were able to get this win. It was their first game with Chase Young after acquiring him in the deadline and then going into the bye. I know it feels like a long time ago that they made that transaction, but they made it. A week went by, then another week went by, game. So it makes sense why it's felt so long ago, and it's his first game. But there was like a 20-day, not 20, there was like a 14-day gap between the trade and their next game. But, they're really, really good. They're built for success. And if Brock Purdy could play well in the playoffs, I think they're absolutely a team from the NFC that could go to the Super Bowl. And there are only 3 teams in the NFC that I truly believe could and will go to the Super Bowl. They are one of them.
Very interesting. My number 3 is the Baltimore Ravens. I'm keeping them at 3. The Ravens lost a tough matchup to their division rivals. They had a 14-point lead 3 times and a 15-point lead once and still ended up losing the game. That's rough. if the Ravens want to be as dominant as people think they are, they can't lose games like that, especially to a division rival. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt because division games are always tougher, and Lamar Jackson is still playing at an MVP caliber level. But tomorrow's game against the Bengals, that's going to be cinema. So, I mean, there's really not much more to say for the Baltimore Ravens. I know how good they are, but that loss was a little iffy, and I'm not going to penalize them right now for it. I kind of want to see the takeaways for tomorrow's game and reevaluate the Ravens in a couple weeks. So that's what I'm going to do. At number 2, I have the Kansas City Chiefs. They made it all the way up to 2. They've been hesitant right in the middle of my list, moving up down 6 to 4 to 3. They're at 2 right now. The Chiefs beat the Dolphins, so I have to continue to move up to move the Chiefs up higher and higher, and lower the Dolphins like I did. I mean, the Chiefs have been slowly climbing up the power rankings, but still, it just doesn't seem to be the powerhouse they've been in years past. It's weird saying that about a team that's 7-2, but something is off about this team at the moment still, as they almost blew a 20-point lead to the Dolphins. Like something the past Chiefs teams wouldn't do with Mahomes that would never happen. A old Patrick Mahomes Chiefs teams would never even come close to blowing a 21-point lead to the Dolphins. There's just something about this team that just seems off. And I think we might not see what that is during the regular season, but I think come the playoffs, like, I don't think this team's going to win the Super Bowl. And if they do, then it's their plan all along, trying to disguise that we're not going to burn ourselves out during the year, and they're just going to shove it in our face when he makes it to the Super Bowl and they win it all. But to me, just something seems off about this team. I don't know what it is. I don't see them winning the Super Bowl this year. But nonetheless, they just keep climbing higher and higher, and they find themselves on number 2 on my power ranking.
Very fair. Very fair. At number 2, I have the Philadelphia Eagles. I think the Eagles, they are winning games in different ways than they did last year. Last year, they just dominated everyone. And I think I've said that before on the show already. And this year, they're like finding like real ways to win. It's almost like they're preparing themselves for the playoffs. I think they're going to be well prepared. The tush push, Jason Kelsey, all the stuff that has been popular in terms of the Philadelphia Eagles over the last, handful of months as we've gone into the season are working. They have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. Jalen Hurts is incredible. I love their weapons, led by A.J. Brown, one of the best receivers in the NFL. Their defense is great. And this week, it's the battle of the Kelsey brothers on Monday Night Football.
Whew,
I mean, that's arguably just as good as tomorrow night's game.
Mm-hmm.
You can argue it's better. Because
better.
Not only is it the Kelsey brothers, you got the Taylor Swift story, you got the Super Bowl rematch story. There's all sorts of outstanding highlights that come with this, game that we're going to get on Monday night. I can't wait for it. It's going to be awesome. And then at number 1, I have the Baltimore Ravens. I've seen nothing to, conclude that they're not still the best team in the league. The Browns made a nice comeback win and got them. Every team's going to lose in the regular season. I have the Browns in my top 10 for a reason. I've been high on the Browns for a long time, and a team like the Ravens are going to lose to a team like the Browns every now and again when their defense is that good. If I were Baltimore, I would hope that a team like the Browns and the Chiefs get bounced before they play me, because I do think the one thing that could stop the Ravens in the playoffs are one of these super elite, one of these super elite teams on defense, these teams that know Lamar well. But I don't know. I think when push comes to shove, their offense is better than most of the teams in the league, and Lamar's just been otherworldly. He probably wins the MVP by the time it's all said and done, as long as he stays healthy down the stretch here. But yeah, I really like what the Ravens are doing, and they should be able to compete for the Super Bowl once the playoffs come around.
I like that pick. I like that you're high up on the Ravens, because I say this all the time that they're one of my true contenders to win the Super Bowl preseason. So, I mean, so far so good with the Ravens. I mean, as a Steelers fan, I'm not the biggest Ravens fan, but they're a good team, and Lamar Jackson's playing unreal right now. So my number 1 for the second power ranking in a row is the Philadelphia Eagles. There's no change here. The Eagles continue to find ways to win, and it's because of their small game wins that I talked about a couple weeks ago. Their ability to get those 2 yards on 4th and 2 that other teams can't complete at such a high rate as the Eagles do puts them on top of the kingdom once again. It's like they're in a different tier because of that, because I mean, they're basically always playing in 4 down territory, because by the time it gets to 4th down, it's 4th and 1, easy to complete. There's a reason they've only lost once this year. It's because of how good they are in the small games. They also had a bye too, so we only had 1 week to judge them on with this power ranking. And that was in the week that they won was a week they beat another top 10 in my power ranking, the Cowboys. I mean, that's not saying much. I mean, everybody should beat the Cowboys if you're home, but there really wasn't much change here for the Eagles. Judging them on 1 week is hard because they had the bye, but no change for them. I think they're a wagon. I think they're gonna make it back to the Super Bowl, and yeah, the Eagles, man. Jalen Hurts is playing great. Team's playing great. AJ Brown, MVP candidate potentially. I mean, this team's very good, VP. So there you go. That's my power ranking for you.
There you go. Very much looking forward to seeing how this all plays out. Do you think by week 18 when we're done, they are similar, our lists?
Yeah, they'll be a little similar. It won't be identical. We'll have the same 10, like guaranteed, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
I think so too.
The
I
order
do.
will be a little different, but for the most part, we'll definitely have the same 10.
If not the same 10, 9 out of the same 10. Like we might
100%.
Yeah.
I feel
I'm
like
with
we
you.
always have 9 out of 10.
Well, who'd you leave off notably this week? You didn't put the Bills. Shocker.
I couldn't. I'm not a homer. I mean, I got to use my brain.
Yeah.
I think we had the same 10.
No. I don't have the Cowboys or the Dolphins.
Oh, so we had 8 out of 10.
Yeah. And you didn't have the Vikings or the Steelers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's never crazy. I mean,
no. But like, I don't think the two you have in, the Cowboys and Dolphins, they probably would be 11 and 12.
I want to get the Cowboys off my list so bad.
You have the Seahawks too, though, right?
No.
Oh no, you did leave the Seahawks. The Seahawks, Cowboys, and Dolphins and Bills would be like my honorable mentions. Those are probably 11 and 14 through 14.
Yeah, now the Bills got a new offensive coordinator, so.
Yeah. The guy that got fired was the one who like did all the smashing in the booth.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember all that?
Mm-hmm.
All right, Frank, we move on. The Chicago Bears, they stink. Anything on them real quick other than their win over the Panthers was
I mean, they did what they needed to do.
Yeah, they
right?
stunk, but
they barely beat the Panthers, but that helped them still have the best chance to get the number 1 pick. The Arizona Cardinals got Kyler Murray back, so them winning was nice. That'll help the Bears in the standings a little bit. I mean, now this week the Bears visit Detroit, so get ready for an embarrassment, and the Bears could go back to being the Bears for the remainder of the season.
Yep. I hope they lose every game here out. If the season ends today, they'd have pick 1 and 5. I have a theory. Maybe take Marvin Harrison Jr. number 1.
Wow.
Unless, no, I have it backwards. You take a quarterback number 1 because 2, 3, and 4 probably take quarterbacks, not Marvin Harrison Jr. New England takes a quarterback. The Giants take a quarterback. The only team that worries me is Arizona. Would they keep Kyler Murray?
Probably.
I don't think they don't want to. They've said they want to move off him. But man, he played good. He's a good player. He was a number 1 pick.
Marvin Harrison to that team.
I know.
Murray. That's why they might not.
I know. So we'll see how it all shakes out. Hopefully the Bears don't have to worry and they just keep losing. And like a 3-win season gets them like 3rd or 4th. And that way the team in between them maybe is the Patriots or the Giants, like a team that stinks enough to be in that mix. So we'll see. The college football playoff top 4, did you like it?
Yes, I did. It's
Me
about
too.
damn time.
Yep.
Finally, Ohio State drops from number 1. They never deserved to be number 1 in the first place. Both Georgia and Ohio State won by 35 points this week. The only difference is Ohio State won 38-3 against 3-7 Michigan State. Like, yeah, if you're number 2 in the country, you should win. And Georgia won 52-17. They won by 35 as well, but they beat Ole Miss, who is ranked number 9. So that's very impressive. And that just proves that Georgia is still strong, and they have a chance to make history this year, winning their 3rd national championship in a row. And I don't know if there's anybody out there that could beat them, honestly. I really don't. It's not Alabama. I don't. Georgia's my pick right now.
Georgia's my pick too. But if
Get out of here with Alabama. Don't even.
If 11-1 or whatever the H it would be, Alabama takes on undefeated Georgia in the SEC championship game.
Georgia's gonna
and the Crimson Tide pulls out a win. 2 SEC teams in the playoff again. Oh no! Alabama. They keep coming, and people like you always find a way to shit on them no matter what. Alabama. I've already shown
I think
off.
NIU would have a better chance against Georgia.
NIU stinks. They play Notre Dame next year. That's going to be a huge topic of conversation. But Alabama is so good. Nick Saban is so smart. He's the best ever at college football. I can't wait to see all these people cry when Alabama finds a way. I've seen enough college football to tell me that they at minimum have a chance. Now, them dogs are good. If they play against Alabama in the SEC title game and win, I think the dogs are going to win the whole ass thing. I think one of those two wins the whole ass thing.
You're insane.
Who's going to win between Michigan and Ohio State is the real question. You think Michigan?
Ohio State, I think they're frauds.
Why?
Their quarterback.
Me too. I'm with you. I'm absolutely with you.
I can't believe they were 1 for a second. Like, who on the committee said that was a good idea? They did nothing. They squeak out wins.
Well, the committee for a while, they probably viewed the Notre Dame win as big. And they probably viewed the Penn State win as big.
Do they not take into consideration how well the quarterback plays?
No, they do. The roster. The roster is what they look at. But okay, so far this season, they lost in the Peach Bowl 42-41. They could have beat Georgia and they blew it. They beat Indiana 23-3. They beat Youngstown 35-7. They beat WKU 63-10. Then they beat Notre Dame 17-14, and it took Notre Dame having 10 men on the field. Yes. They beat Maryland, Purdue. Yep, they beat Penn State, who's 12 now. Oh, Ohio State's 3 in the AP poll.
They're just going to keep going. They're just keep dropping them.
They're 3 in the AP poll and 2 in the college football playoff. They beat Wisconsin, and then Rutgers and Michigan State. They play Minnesota and then Michigan. I don't know, man. I don't know who I'm rooting for. Football, but college. I mean, when you come in, we're 2 hours and 13 minutes into the program right now. The first hour and 50 minutes was all hockey, literally hockey and cheese. Like, that's what we talked about for 2 hours, hockey and cheese. You come in for our 15-minute, 20-minute football segment every time. That's your fault, not mine. But Frank, wrapping up football, we're getting into the nitty-gritty now with college. It's getting to the good times now. I can't wait for Michigan, Ohio State. 11 a.m. on the 25th. I will be locked in on Rivalry Week. Frank, it's time for you to go over the Game of the Year noms.
I will go over the Game of the Year noms. The nominations, VP, for Game of the Year 2023. are Alan Wake 2, game I mentioned on Frankie's Video Game Corner last week, Baldur's Gate 3, Marvel Spider-Man 2, Resident Evil 4 Remake, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. BP's get the smirk. He hears Zelda and he smirks. First of all, I look at these 6 nominations. Great games. Each one of these games, great games. First of all, you can't have a remake win Game of the Year. That can't happen. Resident Evil 4 Remake, it's great that you made it. Great honor to have you. But it can't win it all. It's just one of those unwritten rules. I mean, you had your chance when it came out. The remake's not winning. I think it's going to be between Baldur's Gate 3 and Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I'm leaning towards Tears of the Kingdom right now for one specific reason. Breath of the Wild won Game of the Year in 2017. And people say, and you've played both, maybe you could, elaborate on this a little bit, that Tears of the Kingdom is even better than Breath of the Wild. So that's all I got to say.
I think it is.
So if that won Game of the Year and this is even better, that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I need to play it more, though. I played Breath of the Wild significantly more. I need to play this one more.
Dylan thinks it's Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah, well.
But he's also a Zelda. He doesn't play Zelda.
Yeah, to have I can't have a definitive opinion because I'm not going to poo games I haven't played like he is. Just like we're going to go see the Marvels tomorrow, and he already decided that he hates it. Hasn't seen a second of it yet. So, but I've seen some good reviews. So
it's going to be okay. It'll be middle of the pack.
Yeah, I think so too, but we'll see what happens. Those are some good games. I hope Zelda wins selfishly, but
I think it will.
I'm not going to bet against games I haven't played.
That's true. I'm surprised you haven't gotten like Super Mario Bros. Wonder. You're a Mario guy.
Yeah, I probably will get it eventually. I would like to play it. Joey says Tears is my favorite game of all time. I still play it to this day. I want to get back into playing it again because I stopped. Yeah, he's talking about Tears of the Kingdom. I need to get back into playing and get on Joey's level because Joey's better at Zelda than any person I know, I think. This dude is a Zelda mastermind. But we'll see. I need to get back into it, so I'm excited about it. Now, Frank, I know we were talking a little bit of football, a little bit of games, a little bit of hockey, of course, a lot of hockey. I think it's time to get to America's favorite podcast segment of the week. Breaking Bets.
Where's my money, bitch?
Frank, this is my own private domicile. Bitch.
Alrighty, VP. Still above 50%. It's what we like to see. VP says I won't go below 50%. He's got the confidence in me.
Hell no. You only got 6 weeks left on this 2023 run.
Yep, and then we'll restart it. We'll do a 2024 run.
Then you're going under 50 in 2024.
Wow. What if I don't?
I'm just kidding.
No, I probably will, right? Like you just
No.
assume. I got
really quick. Did you see the news on who might play Mr. Fantastic in the next Fantastic Four movie?
I don't think so.
Pedro Pascal,
yeah.
the Mandalorian.
He's also the main character in The Last of Us.
Yes, he is.
Oh my god, I love him.
He's great. All right, back to Breaking Bets.
Got 3 picks. 2 are for the football game tomorrow. First up, Bengals at Ravens. I like the Ravens -3 at -145. Bet to win 3 units. I really want to take the Bengals plus 3.5 points here, but the Ravens are just a really tough team to beat on their home field. And the first game ended earlier in the year when they played a 3-point victory in favor of the Ravens. but that was in Cincinnati. This time around, it's in Baltimore, with each team kind of going in opposite directions. Kind of. I think the Ravens could get it done and cover by a field goal. But worst case scenario is you get a push if they just win by 3. So that's why I like the Ravens -3. But I don't see them losing this game or winning by less than 3. So I'm going to go with the Ravens -3, -145, bet to win 3 units. The second bet on the game, this is almost like it seems like a must take, is Gus Edwards to score a touchdown. 2 units on that, +110. Gus Edwards has been sizzling lately. He's got 7 touchdowns in his past 4 games. The Ravens love to put the ball in his hands when they have the chance to score. They trust him with the ball in those high-pressure situations. And with a man who's been scoring touchdowns at will, you can't pass up the opportunity to take him to score, especially the last time they met, he scored a touchdown in week 2. They trust him. He's been sizzling. You're getting him at plus value. If the Bengals score, or if the Ravens score 3 touchdowns, which I'm sure they will, I'm assuming Gus Edwards will have a touchdown. I love it. +110. Bet 2 units on that, and hopefully we'll have ourselves a good Thursday. Leads me to my last pick, which occurs tonight. It's my hockey pick. I was going through the slate of games. There was nothing I really loved. Then I saw something that kind of stuck out, and I'm like, all right, we'll bet to win a unit on it. The Ducks are traveling to the Avalanche to play the Colorado Avalanche. I like the Ducks +1.5 goals, -105. Bet just to win a unit if you want to get your feet wet with a little hockey tonight. Just gives you something to watch, a little action on the game. I like the way the Anaheim Ducks have been playing lately. They've been competitive, and the Colorado Avalanche have been letting in a boatload of goals lately. They've let in 16 goals in their past 4 games. That's averaging 4 goals per game. And since the Avalanche are at home, we're going to get a great chance to take the Ducks and the 1.5 and still get tremendous value because of how much of a favorite Colorado is. Anaheim comes into this game, however, on a 2-game win streak, though, and it appears like they're always up for these bigger games. They gave Vegas their first regulation loss, and this is another big game that the Ducks are in. And don't count them out against another elite team. I could see them keeping this one close. That's what the Ducks do. They're competitive in these types of games. So I like the Ducks +1.5 at -105, bet to win a unit. And those are the 3 picks we're going to roll with this week. Let's win some money, VP.
Money! Here comes the money. Love it, Frank. Absolutely love it. Really, really good stuff. So hopefully you win all your money and people follow you. And if they fade you, I hope they get smashed. Very, very good. What a show.
What a show. Very good show.
Longer than I expected based on the sheet.
Yeah, but we always ramble.
We ramble. That's what
so
we do.
It doesn't matter what the sheet is. We just always talk no matter what. So.
Yep, I could say I'm convinced we could go no sheet. We should do a
tough.
We should go a no sheet episode.
That's tough.
Let's do a no sheet episode. We'll do it
because then I'm not prepared with my stats and stuff.
Yeah, we'll see how good of a rambler you are.
Oh.
I just did the Let's Go Devils podcast pregame show solo yesterday. No sheet.
But you at least did some research.
No.
That's crazy.
Off the top of my head, you could go watch it at Let's Go.
I don't know if I could do it, to be honest with you.
There was a half hour of me just previewing the game off the top of my head.
I got to be prepared, man.
I mean, it was kind of easy. Like, I just went into it. I'm like, I'm going to do a little portion. I'll start off 5 minutes on the last game they played. And then 5 minutes on what they're missing without Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier. And then I'll touch on Jesper Bratt and Timo Meier leading the way without those two. Then I'll get into goaltending, and then we'll do predictions, and then a half hour is gone before you know it.
Like, we could be talking about Alex Vlasic. Yeah, he's been playing great for the Hawks. I love the way he's been playing defensively. Brings a big atmosphere into the room, brightens the atmosphere or whatever. But then I don't know his career stats offhand. I don't know what to say. Like,
I get what you're saying.
I got to be prepared.
When we do it, it's going to be funny.
It's not.
We're going
to hate it.
We're going to do it in January. We're going to do no sheet.
And I'm going to be stuttering the whole time.
No sheet show. When's episode 150?
Oh, God.
Episode 1, we're probably a little ways away. It'll probably be over the summer, right?
No.
It's one.
Maybe
This is 137.
14 weeks. So yeah,
Yeah,
it'd be like February. No, I don't know.
it'll be a while before we hit 200, though. But we will hit 200. I'm
What
confident.
about 156 is 3 years, right?
Oh yeah, that's about right. I'm not good at math, but we shall see. It's been a fun ride no matter what. I love doing it. It's one of my favorite parts about my life is doing this show every Wednesday at 2 p.m. here on the Barroom Network. Crosstown Crosstalk is canceled until 11:30. We will resume. So make sure you tune into Crosstown Crosstalk and make sure you read all Frankie's shit on apptrigger.com and keep reading the video game stuff. The news is getting good. Very much looking forward to see what comes out from that. You look like you have something to say.
No, I'm just listening.
There you go. Well, I hope everybody who was in the chat enjoyed the show, whether you were in the chat or talking online. It has been an absolute pleasure doing the show with you guys. So each and every day, make sure you're following at the King Bean on Twitter and at Vinny Parisi on Twitter. We are tweeting. I was finally able to unmute Frankie's annoying ass now that Big Brother is over. Congratulations to Jag on winning the whole damn thing. He desered it. He absolutely deserved it. I don't care. He deserved it.
He did deserve it.
He deserved it.
Nobody was gonna lose to him. That's why they had to get him out before this. Like nobody had a chance.
Yes, I agree. And Matt was great.
You thought Matt had a chance over Jag. You thought
I thought he had sympathy votes. Jag wasn't that great with jury management. He got lucky that
you respect him.
I do respect him. If he had a salty jury, though, he wouldn't have won. Matt would have. I do believe last year's jury probably votes for Matt.
You can't be a salty jury.
I wouldn't. I would hate that. But like the way Cameron was like, I hated you. You were the best. I wanted you out. I'm voting for you. That to me is what a jury should be like.
Yeah, that's how it usually is.
It's how it should be. Last year's jury,
last year was a little weird because it's not always like that.
Taylor was great. I think Monty had just as good of a resume. Turner did too.
Yeah.
And they freaking didn't. So shit, Bowie Jane had a good resume too.
You're gonna watch reindeer games, Big Brother reindeer.
Oh
games?
Yeah. Can't wait. Love Christmas.
Nice 6-episode Christmas version of Big Brother.
Yep.
And did you hear who's on it?
No.
Matt and Suri.
They are both on it?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go. Who from last year? Anyone?
I don't know.
That's gonna be sick. That's gonna be very, very cool. Well,
maybe Matt gets his redemption and you can win this little season.
Maybe that'd be cool. I mean, I'd be happy with it.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed the show. Make sure you're all following along on social media and all that. Follow the Barroom Network. Huge game between the Chicago Bears and the Detroit Lions this weekend. The Barroom Network is going to be in full-fledged. Again, Crosstown Crosstalk will return on 11:30, and we will be back next Wednesday for more Bardown Talking Hockey on Thanksgiving Eve, Blackout Wednesday. Frankie and I are going to get some drinks together on the show and just have a Thanksgiving hockey extravaganza. Maybe we'll have multiple guests. Maybe we'll have a little Thanksgiving round treat. Say, give a hockey player or story or team you're thankful for. That'd be kind of fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would actually.
Yeah, we'll get something like that together. I'm very much looking forward to it. And as always, I hope everybody has a great rest of your day and week. And thank you for listening. As always, stay hockey, stay golden. And I said it once, but I'll say it again. Thank you for listening.